It's going to be a laid-back show today. It's going to be just chatting, maybe bringing some people up to say hi. It's been such a crazy weekend, and there's just so much stuff going on that I gotta keep it chill because, I feel like this weekend was the weekend that, like, solidified America falling into full-blown fascism, and I don't know how they're gonna get out of it. Hey. So, that's why I don't want to get too stuck in too many details tonight. I feel like that's all I've been talking about nonstop for the last couple of days. So we'll go over some things. Hey, Perry. Please tap, share, try to get the live out there so we can get more people before we start diving in. Why can't I share? Oh, there it is. I was like, where's my share button? It's taking way too long. All right. There we go. Thanks, guys. Thank you. There we go. Yeah, so what was your biggest oh shit moment from the news that came out over the last 5 days? Was it the Alien Enemies Act? Was it the airstrike on Yemen? Was it the removing the graves of black women and soldiers from a major veteran cemetery? Oh, Tiffany. Can I bring you up and can you share some of that then? Yeah, Trump now impeaching judges, going after anybody who was on the January 6th committee, giving extreme right-wingers more and more of a voice on every platform, taking away Radio Free Europe from occupied parts of Ukraine. I mean, it's been a little wild, to say the least.
Hey, babe.
How's it going?
It's not bad. I've been on a live on, sorry, I'm in a restaurant. My daughter's in ballet, so I sit here for 3 hours every Tuesday. But the lives I've been on have been an American Live, funny enough, every morning. And it's actually been really interesting and informative because one of the people who come up on their lives often is actually a lawyer. So I've been able to kind of pick his brain because obviously as Canadians, we have a basic understanding, but not a really in-depth understanding of any loopholes or anything that goes on with the legislation or even the branches of government. And so they've been really talking and discussing a lot about how the executive branch has obviously abdicated their role, so to speak. Yes, I had to make a joke. And so they've been talking a lot about that, but they still seem rather hopeful that they're not quite in as disastrous situation is we all think, for the simple fact that Trump is still not flouting the law completely. He's still going sort of based on judicial decisions, or at least going back for more clarification from federal judges. And it's been fascinating to find out how their legal system is so much different from even Canada, because I believe as an Albertan, if I have to make a challenge to anything legal, I have to go to a court in Alberta, etc., and head up from my province, right? Whereas in the States, any federal judge in any state can make a ruling on anything. So Republicans tend to go to Texas to get any judgments on any rulings and anything they want to have judgments on. And obviously Democrats have their preferred states with judges. And so it's really fascinating.
I get that, but what about, like, what is their opinion on the fact that he is not listening to the courts? He's doing things and then going oopsie daisy after he's been told not to.
Yes, and what the lawyer, basically the gist of what he said was that he's still hopeful in the fact that what Trump is doing is he's making a challenge, because I guess the airplane was over international waters, and therefore is it technically that judge's jurisdiction? And I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. Me and you have the same thoughts on this about how BS it is, but
no, but I mean, like, I think they're wrong. Like, I think that they're just lying to themselves to make themselves feel better about the situation. He knew from the moment that he invoked the act that it was unconstitutional to even invoke it, because they are not at war with Venezuela. So he cannot use it that way.
I 100% agree, but I think because this is a lawyer, I think what he's waiting for is a federal judge to make a ruling, because because once a federal judge makes a ruling on it and then he decides to
but he's trying to get rid of any judge that's not a loyalist. Like, he's in the active process of doing that.
I know. I feel like a lot of them just, I feel like
they don't want to come to terms with the truth, man. Like, that's what it is. I'm sorry, but like
100%. But
I know a little bit about law too, and like I get it. I get what they're trying to, like, keep their hope out for, but
100%. It's definitely keeping a white lantern on, for sure. Is how I view what they're doing, for sure.
I mean,
definitely.
Cross my fingers, but like
me too. Like he said, he's like, it's not completely, like, they're in a constitutional crisis, but not 100% until Trump has firmly, or his administration, I should say, has firmly, they're no longer bothering to challenge things in court, is when he's really going to become concerned, is how I understood it. So as long as they're still coming to challenge things in court or challenge interpretations of the Constitution, they're in danger zone, but they're not quite completely on the other side where there's no hope. I agree. It's definitely a whole
and that's why they need to do something before they get to that other side, when then there's no hope. Like, that's what boggles my mind. It's like, this is your window, everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the window. Like, use 100%. Your window, because then it gets closed forever.
Well, it was interesting because they were talking about impeachment today and how it would be a waste of time and effort, which for all of us.
Sorry, say that again, because every time I touch this headphone, the freaking music app goes crazy.
It was interesting because he was talking about how impeachment would basically be a waste of time, and there's no point in them even doing it right now, because even if they bring forward papers of impeachment, it still has to go before. They still have to approve it, and then it would have to go before Congress, which would be basically the court, and they'll never get it that far. And I was like, so what? So I was confused. I'm like, so what is stopping him right now from doing anything? And he's like, they're like, essentially, we're waiting to see if he decides to just ignore the judicial branch right now.
But he has. He's been ignoring it since day one.
I know. I agree. I think, you know what? I think a lot of people right now are just, they're trying to hold on to any little like grains of hope that there is left, that they haven't completely gone into complete fascism. I don't have the heart to completely like blow it up for them. I don't. I've been just trying to like give tools and ideas on how to stay safe. Um, what differences are. It's funny, I've had people ask in the comments, like, what's it like in Canada? I'm like, well, kind of like the US, but better.
I wouldn't even say like the U.S. because like our culture is
like
actually
Europe and better.
quite different. I was gonna say it's more similar to Europe than it is
Australia?
to the United States. Is a whole different feel. It's a whole different vibe. It feels like you almost like step into a movie or like a reality TV show. There's something about it that doesn't feel like Canada.
You know what? I think it used to. I think there was a point when I was younger where you used to see a lot more similarities between our countries, and I think it's slowly just kind of since Reagan gone downhill. Just completely. And you know what? It's been interesting because I've been learning a lot about things that I really didn't understand about how their government works, their legal system works, etc. And it's been fascinating watching Americans who like are really trying to fight. They really are, and they're really trying to educate. And then watching the comments. It's like
it's hard.
Oh, the negative comments about Canada, it's wild. Like I have no idea how we got to this point. Like who would have thought Canadian
you know.
Yeah, who would have thought Canadian bacon would be a documentary? Who would have thought?
Yeah, but we know, like we know why we're here. We're here because propaganda and lies
100%.
and psychological manipulation.
100%. And what I've been trying to do is, because it's funny, as an Albertan, you'd be surprised the number of times they're like, well, Alberta can leave. I'm like, no. I'm not leaving. No, we're not leaving. Those who choose to leave in Alberta are more than welcome to wander off. Please take Smith and LaGrange with you. I will pay you to take them. We will take up a collection. We will all take up a collection. But I'm like, no, Alberta is part of Canada. Even Smith, as much as terrible as she is, has even said that. Like, I'm just like, Canada has no intentions of breaking apart. We love our country. We love the people that we are. Do we have terrible things in our history? Absolutely. But you know what? We're willing to own them, make reparations for them, something that I think that makes us what is so different from America. Because it's funny, I talked. Yeah, exactly. Well, we can't, Hatter, we just can't leave anyways. Like, I'm born and raised Edmontonian. I have no intentions of going anywhere, ever.
We're just different in many other ways too. Like even in our history, Canada has not been the warmonger that America has been.
And I don't think we want to be.
We've always been the peacekeepers. We're the ones that like send our military in so that they can try to help people and help people with injuries and kind of clean up. But like we've always been the peacekeepers. We've been a country that's been built on immigration, legal immigration. That's like the big difference. One of the biggest differences is like this entire country was built on taking people in from around the world and giving them somewhere safe where they could build a family and
I hope that never
changes.
Roots. I hope that never changes. I hope if I imagined a legacy for Canada, and I said this on this this American Live many times, if I had a vision for what Canada's legacy could or should be, I hope that everybody remember how Mr. Rogers talked about how his mom always said in terrible times, look for the helpers. Always just look around for the helpers. I hope that that's what Canada symbolizes in the world, is that we are those people. And I hope we never lose that. I hope, if nothing else, that is something we keep forever. It is breaking my heart watching a lot of these things happen in the States, knowing full well we can't help because it means that the orange Cheeto will think he won. And it's heartbreaking watching our countries being kind of just torn apart from each other, from longtime friends, cousins, brothers, whatever you want, sisters, all of it, whatever you want to call our relationship we've had for 80 years. It's heartbreaking to watch that being destroyed by one, well, I'm going to say it's probably a handful of evil human beings. And I use that term loosely.
But it's a lot of this United States influence, right?
Yep.
Because United States has always been in charge of media, Hollywood, all of the different ways that people have been brainwashed for a long time.
Oh,
and
Hatter,
social
you're gonna
media.
Love this. Since Hatter's in the audience, he's gonna love this because my husband came home from work early today and he was talking to a couple of coworkers he doesn't normally talk to, and they were blaming Quebec for taking advantage of Canada and the US. So I was just like, say what? How so? I'm completely confused. So there are Albertans watching content now or hearing shit now that are blaming Quebec for not just taking advantage of Canada for the transfer payments, which they obviously don't understand how they work because their IQ level is not above 10. But also now they're saying that is the reason that America thinks that Canada's taking advantage of them. And I'm like, what? The province who has their own separatist party federally, but jumped to the pump to sit here and defend Canada with every fiber of their being, and you're going to blame them? Oh, please tell me the names of these people, and I would love to go meet them and speak with them personally. Love it because I'm like, I will. And he tried to show them facts, education, etc. And they were like, no. They what you're showing me is wrong. And I'm like, oh my God. So like literally there's people who, even if you show them facts, doesn't matter. They won't believe you. You could show them anything. But I was like, how can
it's
you blame
scary.
Quebec? I love Quebec. I love all my French people. If I had a choice to be reborn, it would be in France or Quebec. It would be like tomorrow. But I'm like, I just cannot for the life of me understand how we're getting to this point where we're starting to pick apart each other in Canada. Like, what the I can't understand how people are like, oh, Alberta should leave. Quebec's to blame. Like, no. We are all just pawns in this whole entire game that America is setting up in a chess match. And we need to lock together as a team, not eat each other alive. It's the last thing we need.
I know, but as I said, right, this is the propaganda that's been put out there for a long time. It's propaganda that affects people on both sides. It's propaganda that infects people with this us versus them virus, where they can't stomach anybody who doesn't have the same beliefs or have the same opinions, right? Like as soon as you have a different opinion, they're very jumpy. And I see it on both sides. So I'm not going to say that it's one or the other because I've seen leftists do it. I've seen people on the extreme right do it. But it's this thing where like we can't just sit down and hear each other out anymore. And it's a massive issue. Everybody's like constantly on edge. And we're not going to get anywhere unless we can come together. And then, when I say unless we come together, that means we need to understand both sides. We need to be able to figure out common ground and talk to each other. People will get mad at me for that. How do you want to find common ground with these people? And I've seen it personally where a person on the right is actually even though they might have a different opinion and maybe a really dangerous opinion, if they're being respectful, let's have a conversation. I've actually been able to talk to a couple of people on the right lately where we've actually decided, hey, we don't agree, but we can be civil to each other. And that's a rare thing. And like, I'm grateful for every time I find it that I'm like, whoa, at least we can agree on like the fact that we want our sovereignty. At least we can agree on the fact that this is important to us, that we don't get into a war. At least we can agree that we both want people's lives to be better. We want them to be able to afford things easier, etc. The way that we get there might be different, but at least let's be able to find some common ground here. Everybody is so divided. People are divided within their own circles. Like even in a conservative circles, you have people that want to be the 51st, people who don't, people who hate certain conservative supporters, but then they're still going to vote for Pierre Poilievre and so on and so forth. You have that in there. And then you have that on the progressive side, right? Where you have the fights in between the Liberals and the NDP and the Greens. And it's all been orchestrated by the algorithms and by what media you consume and by 100%. How things have been sensationalized, right? Like a lot of content becomes like super sensationalized where people just aren't thinking in their rational mind anymore. They get into their feelings. Those feelings are then exploited by an algorithm and it creates division across the board because that's the best way to divide and conquer.
100%
and conquer
100%. And I think the thing is that the minute we stop talking is the minute hope starts going down the drain. We need to all continue talking. That's not to say we have to agree. We don't. We are all entitled to our own opinion. Now, expressing that opinion is a whole other ballgame. I actually had a conversation about the difference between Canada and the U.S. in that Canada doesn't have freedom of speech. No, we don't. We have freedom of expression, which I appreciate so much more because some things should not be allowed to be said out loud. You shouldn't be allowed to wear certain things. It is not okay. There are certain things that are so hateful they do not need to be recorded and they do not need to be shown. It's okay if we miss that. There's certain things that it's okay if we miss it. It's fine. Like it's not a control thing. It's that we respect human beings and we want them to live not fearful of others and their views of them. But yeah, it's been very interesting watching how the center, I'm going to use center for American, we know it's not quite center, but has been handling this. Like I think they're genuinely concerned is my honest feeling. And I think they're trying to not panic themselves and others, and they're trying their best to keep hope alive. And I don't want to kill that for them because I'm like, once we kill hope, that's it, man. Like that's how we continue the movement. That's how we continue moving forward. And once hope's gone, it's kind of end game. We're then.
I mean, I have personal friends in the United States, lots of them, and they're all like really disappointed with what's happening. You know, they hate it. They keep up with what's going on. They listen to the news. They follow their independent journalists. They try to go to a protest or two, maybe. Some of them have been really let down that the protests in their communities have seemed too small and insignificant, so they didn't really bother going out again. And when I talk to a lot of them, because, you know, I catch up with them every week to see how things are going, they're almost like in this state of like numbness to it already. They're like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going by and just trying to live my everyday life. Like, there's nothing I can really do. I'm paying attention, but what else can I do? I still got to make money and feed my family and, you know, have my life. So, I don't know. I do see bigger protests and bigger resistances now coming up, and we're seeing it kind of all over social media. There's some really big groups out there, but there needs to be like millions of people marching together on DC. Like there needs to be millions, but it's going to take some time, I think. Just like Scott said in the comments there, they're still in shock.
Yep.
Like they're in shock.
I think they can't believe that they're watching the three branches of government completely collapse before their eyes, because that is, for anyone who understands that they have three different branches and how they work, that has been the stability of the country for this whole entire country's existence. And I think they genuinely, I feel like a lot of people don't know what to do. They don't know what actions to take. They don't know where to look. And
they're also scared, right? They're also scared that if they protest like in too big of a number or something like that, then maybe that's going to be used against them, right? So there's a lot of fear too.
Well, and as there should be. I've been telling people for months now, it's not safe for Canadians to go to Canada. All it would take is one agent to look at your social media and decide that you didn't support the current government in power and decide to throw you somewhere. And I don't think that you'd get access to the Canadian consulate, British consulate, etc., etc. They would just throw you there until somebody made enough stink that someone was looking for you. And I believe there's going to be a point where they are going to start using political pawns as human political pawns. And it's terrifying. Like, I wish I could stop everybody who attempts to cross the border, because I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're in for. You don't know if you're going to be on a no-fly list, and you don't know any of that stuff, and you are kind of...
I literally got into a huge fight with my girlfriend and her entire family because they can't cancel their trip to Florida because they can't get their money back. So they're going.
Oh my God. Okay.
I tried. I argued for a good long time until I was kind of blue in the face.
I'm sending all the good juju vibes, all of it, all the vibes. Every vibe that I have access to, it's all going. Everyone.
I kept telling them, I'm like, you don't want to just lose some money? Like, just lose the $6,000, dude. It's not the end of the world. I would rather lose $6,000 than put myself at the risk of going down there.
Well, especially knowing full well that they are currently locking up Canadians or Germans or...
I mean, the Canadian, I know what they're going to say because I sent them all those messages. I sent them all those details, and they're like, well, she was there for over 30 days, and we're only going for 14 days, so we'll be okay.
All it would take is some typo in your paperwork. That's it. Or any reason.
I know.
I don't know if ICE even necessarily needs one anymore, to be honest. And once the 1798 Enemies, whatever it is, Act... Act is fully supported.
Statistically speaking, they're probably going to be okay.
I'd say so.
To me, I'm not worried about their safety. To me, it's a moral thing. It's like, you guys are not, like, they're not conservatives. They're definitely not. Mm-hmm. They understand who the conservatives are in Canada and who they align with. But to me, it's like a morality thing. It's like, you would rather go down there still just because you don't want to lose money when, like, these people are threatening us. They're saying, they're spreading lies about us. They're trying to rewrite history.
And Disney got rid of their DEI policy. Disney got rid of their DEI policy. That would be enough for me right there, personally.
Yeah.
Forget all the rest of it. That would be enough. But, I got to get to Wetaskiwin this weekend. But to me, I'm just like, yes, you know what? The likeliness is you're probably going to be fine. But I'm like, somebody always ends up at the top of the bottom of the bell curve. You want to risk being that person.
Straight up, if it happened to them after I told them specifically not to go, I would have a fuck around and find out moment.
Because I remember right after Trump got in there, I had seen a whole bunch of cheap flights to Cali and Disneyland cheap things. And my husband's like, well, we could go. I'm like, no, we're not. I'm like, that country's not safe. No, I'd rather go anywhere on the planet. Literally, anywhere on the planet. Ideally, I'd probably like to stay in Canada right now. Our dollar is going to be the same everywhere in Canada. And I'm like, we should make sure our dollars get spent with Canadian businesses supporting Canada. Because if there is a year to do that, this is the year. 2025 is the year. Support country. Go travel somewhere here that you've never seen.
Oh my God, go to Tofino. Go to Tofino this summer. It is literally like You know, it's. Can you? Sorry. Can you mute yourself just for a second because it just got super super loud. Yeah, but I was gonna say, like, go to Tofino this summer. It's like the Hawaii of Canada. I mean, it is gorgeous, and it's not even just Tofino. It's the entire Pacific Rim Park that's in between Ucluelet and Tofino, and there's so much to do there. You can surf. You can also just spend your time traveling to all the different little islands all over the place, and paddleboarding and kayaking and taking trips with helicopters to hot springs if those hot springs have opened back up again. But just going on walks along those beaches is enough. Grab yourself a bottle of wine, head down to the beach, have a good time. It is, my favorite place on earth. Doesn't even feel like, and there's such little population there that sometimes if you get on the beach in the morning, if you get on the beach like right in the morning, you can have like a 30-kilometer stretch worth of beach to yourself. If you go to like Long Beach in the morning at like 6-7 a.m. when the sun comes out, you can have that entire beach to yourself. You should go there.
You know what? We've been trying to figure out somewhere to go. I think I'm going to Tofino. You know what? I'm gonna say. You know what?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Everyone, Edmonton, severely underrated during the summer. We are festival city during the summer. We have food festivals, folk festivals, entertainment festivals. Like, if you're ever planning on coming to the city, July and August is like literally it. Like we have an international food festival August long weekend. Literally tents from every culture you can think of, filled with food from that culture. And plus shows and music and dancing and all sorts of other stuff. There's so many things in this country. I think so many of us, I've seen more of the US than I have seen of Canada. So I'm kind of glad that, you know what, this is forcing me. Yes, the Fringe. Thank you, Perry. Yes, the Fringe is awesome. One of the best in the country, hands down, is our Fringe Festival. 100%. Get yourself a poutine and go sit and watch a show. Can't get better.
To be brutally honest, I've always seen more of Canada than I've seen of the United States. I've never been a big fan of the United States. Like I've gone to Oregon and spent some time there once, went to California once, and traveled through Washington to get to Oregon, and like that's it. That's my experience of the United States. That's it. Other than that, though, I've gone all over Europe. I've gone all over Mexico. I just don't. I've never really cared that much. I was like, well, I've got Canada. Canada's more than good enough for an English-speaking country for me. And then after that, I wanted to, see different parts of Europe, and Mexico was always a good time. So I never really spent my time in the States. I've never been to New York. I have no idea. I only stuck to the West Coast, and that's it.
Paris is my soul city. If I had a soul city, Paris is it.
Yeah, France is gorgeous. Paris is beautiful. It's changed a lot, though, over the years. It's changed a lot, but it's always gorgeous. Thank you.
But you know what? This is a year. Like, it's a wonderful year to explore Canada and spend time here, enjoying all of the beautiful humans that are part of our country. And so many wonderful things that you can see in every part of the country that are so very, very different.
I know. Yeah, definitely spend your money in Canada. Don't bother. Don't bother with the States. Boycott. Nope, I thought I saw Hatter for a second in the...
I agree. Travel is expensive in Canada because of flights. Our airlines are a little on the pricey side. I don't disagree with that. I hope that changes over time.
How did the Liberals make the travel expensive, though? Was that the carbon tax? Is that how they made travel expensive? We have 5 taxes for every...
It's always they
Oh,
come
okay.
back to the carbon tax. Always. Like I did.
Yes.
Lord. Like of all the things, I'm like of all the things you could pick out of Canada, that's not even the top 10 of things. Like really.
Well, here let's talk about taxes for a second because that's been the biggest. The conservatives now have switched. I don't know if you saw Pierre Poilievre's like massive goalpost shift. I can't take this guy seriously. Like, I don't understand how more Canadians don't see through him. But he was at one of his like rallies, and this was, I think, only 2 days ago or even yesterday. I'm not even exactly sure, but he was like, "Well, Carney cut the consumer portion, but I'm going to cut the industrial portion too. And you know what? I'm going to start cutting." And then he starts just listing off a shit ton of taxes. He's like, "I'm just going to cut all the taxes. I'm going to cut everything. I'm going to cut everything." Oh my God, it was wild. And of course, the conservatives are like, "Yeah, cut taxes on everything," because they don't really understand how an economic system works and why we need to pay taxes and why sometimes paying taxes can give us a better life. And paying less taxes doesn't automatically mean more money in any way, shape, or form if the corporations still completely control you. It just means less services for you. Like how do you think that we pay for roads and maintenance and all the things that a society needs to function?
Well, and more importantly, if they cut that tax, where are they going to get the new revenue from? That's the better question. As somebody who does accounting for a living, I'm like, if they're cutting that, where is the money coming from? Because it has to come from somewhere. You can't just cut something and then that be it. Where is the new money coming from? Like, guys, the budget, the budget.
Oh, are they going to print? Are they just going to print it and go into deficits?
Yay! Our economy will love that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Like, when I saw that rally with him just going like, "I'm going to cut this tax, and all of these taxes," and I'm like, then how can you fund anything? Where are you going to get the money to fund anything? Oh, we're going to have privatized everything. Privatized roads, privatized schools, privatized healthcare, privatized everything. Yeah, that's going to go real well. It's not like half the population will get unalived by that process.
Well, but isn't that the conservative way? Make sure that everything is privatized. As somebody living in Alberta, I feel uniquely qualified to say that that is the goal in the end, is privatize everything so no one can afford anything. And then ensure that the public is so uneducated that they continue voting you in. Okay, I feel like I'm just reiterating the Republican playbook. Never mind. I don't understand, because honestly, I'm like, if you're cutting somewhere, you have to have the funds come from somewhere else. That's literally it's math. It's like, this is not a fact or feeling. This is just math. Math is just, you can't make something balance. And considering they love a balanced budget with no deficit.
Not to mention that like every single government runs at a deficit at one point. It's like it's the most normal thing, and it's not a business. A government is not a business, but they all somehow think that like our deficit is like the worst thing ever, and that we should never have a deficit, even though like sometimes you need to have a deficit, especially when crises like pandemics and wars happen in the world, and supply chains get super messed up, and like things happen. But if you use that deficit, if you use the money you borrow wisely and you invest, then that deficit is going to get lower, and then another crisis is going to happen, because that's human life, and then we're going to have to go into a deficit again, and so on and so forth. Like,
more importantly, you know what? Like, even businesses run like this. This is why they issue new stock IPOs. It's why they take out loans. In the government's case, it's why they issue bonds. It's why they do all of those things, because you know what? In the government's case, what they're trying to do is make sure that they maintain our infrastructure and fund the infrastructure, thereby creating jobs, meaning that people have jobs to pay the tax structure, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, this is not a home budget where you can't just go, me and you can't just go issue bonds to the world and say, hey, I need to fund my new hot tub. It's very different. Even businesses take out debt. That's Elon Musk. Like, I had to. Sorry, the joke was there.
Who survives on government contracts?
The government contracts plus loans taken out based on his stock value. So like literally I'm like, ask the ultra wealthy. This is literally how they do this. And I'm like, the government does it more importantly because their bonds are secured. It's tied to things. And this is how they fund our infrastructure.
Tyler said, did I miss the WEF meeting? Yeah, that's what this is. I love it. Sorry.
You were supposed to bring cookies.
I'm sorry, I forgot the cookies for the meeting. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
It would be so much easier if a lot of this was part of basic education, that we learn how government budgets and business budgets and home budgets were all different. As somebody who has been doing this for a while and working in accounting for a while, like it's wild to me watching people be like, oh, we need to pay off all our debt, and I'm like, why? Well, so that we don't have debt. I'm like, every government on the planet does. Like, why is that your goal? You at the expense of social programs and support for the people who actually pay the taxes to fund our whole economy and infrastructure and everything. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the government can issue bonds. They can issue 20-year, 50-year bonds. They can pay them back. But questionable about the U.S., but that's a whole other conversation for another day about whether they'll be able to pay their bonds and debt. But
yeah,
I don't understand the logic, and I get that people don't understand that a government or business budget is very different than a home budget, where we as people, but even then, our home budgets, we have credit cards, we have lines of credit, we have stuff.
But don't you know that they've all become economic experts by watching a couple of YouTube videos and random stuff that comes up on X from their bros and their podcasts?
Oh my god, I forgot.
Yeah, apparently you can become an expert now as well. You just have to tune into Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, and they apparently know a lot about economy and how a country's economy should be ran. I mean, it's easy to become an expert nowadays, don't you know?
Well, we could just listen to Donald Trump. He's like bankrupted like 6 casinos. Like, he's
bankrupting America right now.
I know, 100%. Well, what do you expect from somebody who bankrupted not 1 but 6 casinos? Literally, casino is people come in to spend their money in games and food and drink. Like, short of a bank, it writes itself. It's instant cash. There's the liability is like very low. Like, I genuinely don't understand. I'm like, if you're gonna look at government run as a business, like, can we not look at businesses that are well run and have been around for many centuries, rather than just people who bankrupt everything they touched? Because, well, I have my own opinions about why you bankrupt a casino and how you do it, and none of them are illegal. We'll put it that way.
I don't think most of any
with the T.
Well, hey, let's just be brutally honest about something. They're all criminals. They're
100%.
criminals. They like to call the left full of criminals and thugs, and everything they do is projection. Look at the cabinet. They're criminals. Pretty much everybody in that cabinet has had some sort of criminal record of some sort. A lot of them have to do with, a lot of them are men that have SA issues.
Yes, I was going to say, did you see that guy in Wisconsin who was literally just arrested, but he put forward a bill to...
Yeah, the Trump derangement syndrome bill. That's the guy who did it, yeah. And he just got caught for SA with a minor.
Of course he did. Like, I didn't even need anybody to tell me that was going to happen. I'm like, of course he did. No shock
But
value here.
these are the role models that the right is praising.
I don't even understand the logic about how you can use that as a role model. Like, there are definitely people who support conservatism who are much better people to lift up as role models than them. I genuinely don't understand. Like, I look at it and I'm like, there are definitely former Republicans who are probably.
Look at this guy in the comments. Leftists love lawfare. Trump is done playing. I love it. So
What
this
is
guy
lawfare?
is straight up. So this guy is like being lawful. So this guy is basically saying like, oh, I love the fact that Trump's a criminal. Like I'm ready. I'm ready for the criminals to take over. Yeah, the witch hunt is over. Look at him. He's hilarious. He's one of these megas that's like completely, gone down that rabbit hole that he's never going to come out of because he's completely in a cult.
Oh my god! I've had a girlfriend.
Look at that witch hunt failed. Ha 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 ha. Dude, like the witch hunt is done. Like we all know the truth, but
yeah, we don't.
He's a criminal, and he's got a bunch of other criminals with him in the cabinet because they're the criminal freaking mafia of the United States. The same way that you have Russian criminals and oligarchs and working with Putin, it's the same thing here, except American. Trump never lost once.
For sure.
Are you 18 in your mom's basement, dude? Just be honest. It's okay if you are. We won't judge.
No judge here. This is a safe space.
It's a safe space, bro. It's all good.
Well, and what's really sad is I have a girlfriend who lives in the States, and she's been having nightmares about being witch hunted herself because she doesn't subscribe to, Christian ideals necessarily. And so she genuinely, she's worried that they're going to bring back laws against witches, et cetera, in the U.S. And
They're going to. I
keep trying to tell her, I'm like, my door is always open. Just tell me when your plane lands. I will come get you. Yeah, 100%. Like, it's not even... Trump supporters way too often here in Alberta. Yeah, I know. It's embarrassing. Most of us sane Albertans are very embarrassed by them. We don't own them. We don't want them in our province. If they want to be American, they are more than welcome to go be American. Bye now, Felicia. Like, if you want to leave Canada, feel free. None of us will be sad. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
We'll survive. We got this.
It is part of Project 2025, though, to make America a Christian state again. So, good luck to anyone who's not a Christian, because you're going to have to pretend you are one eventually if you don't do something about that orange Cheeto.
It's so sad because I'm like, literally, their country was founded on the principles that religion and government would be separated. It's so... I don't even have a word. I can't even come up with one.
There is no word. Project 2025 is completely banned from taking government roles. Not happening. I don't know who you are, Michael Groiper, but there's actually a Project 2025 tracker where you can see how much of Project 2025 he's already done and will continue to do. You don't need the guy that wrote it to be in a government role. It's just a handbook. So.
But it's a checklist, kind of like, Canadians have our own version of one. Just saying, Canadians have our own version of a checklist.
Yeah, so, I mean, people can deny Project 2025 all they want, but it's a downloadable PDF, which I downloaded it right away because I want to make sure I have that shit forever when I need to point to it and say, hey, look at all the stuff that was written before 2025 that was written in the playbook, and now look at all the things that have happened. Like, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Because you know what? I want to keep it as part of my handbook library so that future generations in my family can read this stuff. And you know what's really amazing? My son came to me and said he wants to read 1984. He really, really, really wants to read it. And I was like, I did a good job as a parent. I now feel good.
How old is he?
13.
Ooh.
I know. Yay, pat on the back me. I know. I was
good
so proud.
job.
I was so proud. I told him, I'm like, we're going to print out the banned book list from the US and we are going to slowly buy every single one on there because I think it's an important part of our library in our house. Like I have Schindler's List in there because I think everyone should go through Schindler's List once. And yes, it will take you forever to read because it is so, if you have any human empathy, there's times you can only read like a few sentences and you have to put the book away because it's so much. Like the movie doesn't even cover 80% of what's in there. It's, I remember reading it at like, I'm going to say maybe 25 and I was like, so...
Micro Groiper, have you ever even, like, you know that it's a booklet, right? It's not a think tank to fill government jobs. It's a full-blown book. It's a book. You can download it. You can go download it yourself right now. It's online. Download the entire PDF. It's like, what, 600? No, it's more than 600 pages long. It's a big one. And then you can read it yourself. Or you can feed it into your AI and you can get your AI to read it for you if it's too complicated for you. But there's methods now where you can make learning easier.
Hank and Trump administration, I don't think has ever gone together in a sentence before.
Yes, so, Project 2025 was written by the Heritage Foundation, which is a think tank. Good job. That was a proper sentence. What you said before is that Project 2025 is a think tank, which was a false statement. You know, we want people to be educated when they read through the comments, and if you're going to say that it's a think tank, I'm going to call you out when it's false.
Words matter.
Yeah, words do matter. Words can mean very different things in different contexts. It includes a list of people to take in government roles. It also includes a bunch of other stuff, Maiko. Oh, good times. Good times.
You know
what great times we're living in right now.
Oh, it's a unique experience. That's how I'll put it. It was funny because the live I was in this morning, the one I was talking about, the American Live, we've been on the past week or so, I actually got to talk about abortion rights and like go on a rant because I was like, if we're not going to sit here and make legal rulings on how you can treat a hangnail if it's infected, my body is my body. I get to make decisions about it myself. You get to make decisions about yours. That's how it works. Like, literally, that's it. That's the end of the statement, period. If I don't get to make decisions about how you decide with your medical professional to treat your hangnail, you don't get to make decisions about mine. But it was a wonderful discussion because there were so many people who I think weren't at first in agreement, but then starting to realize like, oh. And then, of course, there's always the group that it wouldn't matter what we said. They're never going to agree. But it was interesting to see that any Canadian that's defending the U.S. is. I agree, Angry Ginger, 100% agree.
Okay, let's open up the live for more people to come up.
Yes, we need a whole bunch of
chat.
Amazing people up here. Good for you for being real, Michael. You know what? Good for you for being loyal to Sky Daddy's child. Like that, I love that for you. That I full support that you can sit here and love Sky Daddy's son as much as you want. I love that for you.
Me and Sky Daddy, me and Jeebus in the hang.
Yeah, you know what? I bet you anything that if Jeebus was actually, real, which he probably was, he was just a good dude. He was just a really good dude that just, cared about poor people and hung out with, can we say the P word on TikTok? Hung out with
I think that's story's fault.
Workers.
Yeah, I honestly think that was the Romans, kind of slandering.
The P word got a little confusing.
I don't think that story's true at all, but yeah. hanging
What?
with minorities.
That he hung out with Schmeck's workers?
No, because you said the P word on its own, and then I'm like, oh, which P word do you
I was
mean?
talking about Mary specifically, the one who's the most
Yes,
famous
Mary
in the
makes
book.
better context.
I think that was a slander story about her, to be honest.
Yeah. P
But
word
no,
Mary
I
makes more
agree.
sense than P word Republican, who was arrested recently. Both are P words of different.
Yeah, I was
Totally
thinking
different.
about totally different, very different. But I'm just saying Jesus was a cool dude, and he was very much, from the original stories that haven't been as. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that. He was actually a lot like Buddha in a way.
Well, I mean, there's another theory too that during the time that Jesus wasn't around, because there was a huge gap between the Bible between when he was a child to when he was an adult, suddenly preaching the word of God.
Yeah, right.
That he might have been in India.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard that.
there's
I've heard that too. I've heard that too.
So I'm like, it's not a far off thing for him to have gone there for the third year. He's in the Middle East. Both, Middle East people at this time were very familiar with Asia as well as Europe. They were the ones doing the trade between the two. So yeah, he could go run off, spend some time out there, and see what's going on. Why
Yeah.
not?
Right.
Somebody's gonna call me blasphemous for that accusation, but I don't care.
I don't care either. At the end of the day, they're just stories.
It's true.
Well,
They're stories that are trying to depict a way for us to understand the world and to have compassion for our neighbors, to have empathy, to understand what love is, etc. That's what all the basis of all religion really is. The basis of all religion is spirituality. And then religion becomes something political.
And then you've got this, this indoctrination that demands us to understand and accept that there's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man running around somewhere in the Middle East that everybody accepted. Because there's no reference to him actually being blonde-haired, blue-eyed in the Middle East. Except, in that particular time, it would have been something they would have written about because nobody else was.
Yeah.
100%. If you looked a lot like me, I suspect that would have made the news, so to speak.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure there would have been a reference like, yes, he was very unique looking to everybody else because nobody else had blonde hair, blue eyes like he did.
It's just so weird to me. I can't even think of Jesus like that. I mean, he was a Middle Eastern dude. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, my favorite scene from any movie is close to the beginning of the movie Saved. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. Macaulay Culkin is in it and stuff. They literally make commentary about that at the very beginning of the movie because they make a huge statue thing. And of course, Jesus is YT, and of course, Macaulay Culkin's character is like, I don't think so. It was
Doesn't make sense.
Oh my God.
Michael over here thinks that we can only have morals if we have religion, because he thinks that religion needs to be a core component of morals. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You can have morals without being religious. Atheists can be moral.
Constant guy who got charged a child. I'm gonna
Hold on, I wanted to see. Joe is just speaking. Hold on, I want Joe to finish.
So, if religion is the only thing that's giving you morals, then you're claiming that the only reason why you're a good person is because you fear Skydat. You're not capable of being a good person by your own choice, and that says more about you than anything else, right?
Yep. That's what I mean. It's scary when people think that you need to have religion to be moral, because morality shouldn't come from a single religion. And it's scary when it does, because it means that your morality comes out of fear of upsetting your God.
Yeah.
Rather than coming from a place of love and wanting to actually care and help other people. It always comes from a place of fear of I can't upset my God or something bad will happen to me, and that gives me morality, which is so weird to me that you can just otherwise be like, hey, I just want to love people. That's what gives me morality because I don't want to see others hurt. It's not that hard.
The other thing too is when you start thinking like that, then you start also have another particular problem, which is if you're only going to have your values based on what your God is telling you, so it's no longer an issue of what's good and what's bad because somebody's telling you what's good and what's bad. Well, if somebody can tell you what's good and what's bad, you can actually say being cruel is good. Being inconsiderate, dehumanizing is good because as long as it's being told to you.
Hold on, guys.
Honest
I'm
here,
bringing JB up. You know what that means. Everybody else needs to shut up for a second.
Hey, Joe.
Maybe.
Joe,
You
just gotta
have
say,
me
hey, Joe.
blocked, JB.
Do I?
Yes, I know. I never got a chance to talk to you, and I had no idea how to contact you. I swear I'm a
I'm
fake
sorry.
face, I promise. Oh, I'm sure it was some mistake. It happens. But I figured since I had the chance, I'm going to take it so you know.
Oh, you're good. My mods do majority of the blocking, so sometimes people get scooped up in a band hammer, and it just doesn't. It's nothing personal.
All right, everybody mute your mics, please. I will mute mine too.
Sorry, of
JB,
course,
it's all yours.
The second I start talking, my baby's like, "No, I want to talk." So just let me deal with him for a second. Yeah, so real quick, I got off a call at about 6:30. It was an embargoed call with the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party of Canada and Pierre Poilievre has revoked press access to every leading journalistic institution and independent journalists to see him. Nobody can talk to him. He's not doing press conferences anymore. Nobody can travel with him. Pierre is blocking Canadian media from talking to him. Period.
We're not surprised. We're not surprised, though, are we?
What? I genuinely am wondering how conservative voters are going to spin this.
The corrupt CBC. He doesn't want to talk to the corrupt CBC.
Yeah.
He's already spinning it.
You said also it's other journalists. It's a bunch of other journalists. Are they all corrupt?
It's independent journalists. It's mainstream journalists. He's nobody. Not a single person.
What about Rebel News? Is Rebel News allowed?
I don't think so. I'm told it's nobody. So
Okay, so that should piss off some of the conservative supporters, shouldn't it? Like, are they going to be rational about it and realize that that's a giant red flag? So I'm guessing he's not going to want to partake in the debates either during campaigning.
He's not doing the debates. Are you
He
kidding
was
me?
never going to do debates. That I already knew too. He was never going to do debates. He can't handle questions. He can't do debates.
Oh my god, this is like, why is anybody in the right mind want to vote for this guy? Like, when he so clearly does not give a shit about Canadians.
We all know that this is a tendency of fascism, right? To
Yeah.
control the narrative. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
not
I
trying
know,
to
but
make that
like
claim,
Canadians, man, like, we're smarter. We need to be better than this and realize what's happening right in front of our eyes.
You are not surprising anybody in this panel. Like that's not even a question.
No, I agree with Joe. I'm not surprised at all, and I think he's going to use whatever playbook Trump and his cronies have used previously as the exact model for how he's going to handle this with his cult followers. Because I'm going to call it a cult because it's like there's no other thing. There's nothing else to call it.
They can honestly tell you is of my journalistic friends who work in the industry, they're all shocked. They're like, this is a gross and dangerous precedent that is being set, that this is okay.
They need to report on that. They need to tell
you
everybody
wanna
in
know
the
what
country what's happening.
You want to know what Rosemary Barton led the news with tonight on her show? Oh, Mark Carney hasn't released his finances, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, they all just got briefed at 6:30 that their press access got revoked by the Conservative Party. Like,
why are they're siding with conservatives here? Like, dude, he put his assets in a blind trust. If there's any, like, he's already gotten security clearance. If there's any conflict there, we're gonna know about it. So, like, chill.
not to mention he's a member of the Privy Council, which means he has his own ethics board that reviews everything they do. Like, Anyways, I got to drop down, but I wanted to just bring that up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up, though.
That this is all happening as we speak.
That's why I said, like, I'm shocked that, like, our journalists are doing fuck all about it.
Yeah, Tiffany, sorry for you being blocked again. There was just a lot going on over the last year, and some people got indiscriminately scooped up. Joe can kind of back me up on a lot of the shit, right? So
That's true.
it was not
I
fun.
could probably
so
unblock
some
you
people
too.
Yeah, Joe, you're on the list of blocks. By the way, you're getting close. Just saying.
I'm getting closer. I'm not surprised.
If you
That's
send
okay.
anything to my house, I swear to God, Joe.
Guess who sent me your address? Do not.
Okay,
Because she's
bye.
cruel.
Okay, thanks for coming up.
She totally did too.
I heard about something about this morning, but this morning no one stated that he didn't allow him to go on the planes or anything like that. But now, what JB said is it's no form of.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And I bet you anything his supporters are going to think there's nothing wrong with that.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. They're not going to. But again, it's an excellent point of, what is it like? These guys don't care. I mean, he doesn't want to have anything to do with the media because he's terrible with the media. He's absolutely horrible. Cannot.
Hold on, somebody's just
debate a
asking
single thing.
quickly in the chat what's going on, please. So we just found out that Pierre Poilievre has made it so that he will see no journalists, no interviewers, nothing. Like, he is only controlling his own messaging and nobody else is allowed to. So he will not be doing the debates. He will not be speaking to the media, nothing. He has barred them from being able to have access to him in any way, shape, or form.
Is it sad that I kind of hope that this means other parties are going to pick up seats?
No media at all.
So that we get a more
don't know.
equitable house, so to speak?
I don't know. That's the thing, is I don't know if it's going to affect.
Oh, his MPs as well, guys. His MPs as well.
Make a call tomorrow because one of his party members happens to be my MP still because I'm in Alberta and we know what Albertans are like. It's so much fun here. But I will make a call tomorrow because, funny enough, I happen to live in a riding where I have actually one of the more progressive conservative MPs, if you can use that word, so to speak.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's going to be good. But again, it's one of those I have a big question about, which is how effective is it going to be if, like nobody can really sort of challenge him on it?
Because he wants to make sure that he doesn't make an error or mistake, right? So he feels that if he doesn't have any kind of coverage, it protects him in the long term.
Sorry, I think I missed the tail end of what you were saying there.
Or myself?
There's a bit of background noise coming in from
There's
Frontline.
some background. There's a background? I don't know where it's coming from.
Oh, there you go.
sorry.
You're good.
So basically he's trying to protect himself. So he thinks if he's got no journalism, no nothing, no connection, then people are not going to see himself for what he really is, right? So it's a protection for himself, but it's not in the long term. Does that make any sense?
I think so.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's, I mean, obviously that's what he's doing. He's protecting himself because he has nothing to run on anymore and doesn't know what to do with himself. But he's just going to go deeper into that like right-wing rabbit hole and, keep continuing to, slander Carney and put him through a smear campaign but he's not going to, take any interviews. He doesn't want to let media get near him, which means his supporters are going to keep believing whatever he says because he's never going to have anybody to call him out on it. And they believe his every word. They constantly believe his every word. It doesn't matter. His word is God's, just like the Trump supporters in the States. There's no difference. It's literally the exact same people we're dealing with.
100%. As somebody who lives in Alberta, I can attest to this 110%. It was seriously shocking what my husband had told me. These two employees he works with were saying, and I was just like, where would you even come up with something so ignorant to say, let alone illogical? Like, dude, this is just literally a Google search away. Like, I don't understand how the algorithm is targeting these guys. But I've noticed one thing. It's always, from my experience so far, and that's not to say it's all, but a lot of them are single. Yes. They're like hetero, red pill.
There's a pattern.
Yeah, like it's just, and he's making sure that no one, because it's been so easy to punch holes in all of his, like, people's garbage, and the media is definitely trying to punch holes in absolutely everything, that it's just so easy now if you peruse it well from media to try and maintain whatever semblance of a close to the Liberal Party that he has. I think that's what his goal is, to try to maintain that close to the Liberal Party so he can hopefully tip the scales, so to speak, that votes will be divided and Carney will unfortunately lose out to other parties, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think dropping out of debate is a big mistake. Big mistake. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I personally don't think that PP is as charismatic as Donald Trump in that way. I mean, not that I think that Donald Trump is charismatic. The dude makes me want to bit. But I don't think PP's as good as pulling that off as Trump. And Trump had a lot of other, like, much more powerful figures behind him. So I think that he's got, like, his nice solid following. But anybody who's not already part of that red pill pipeline, I think they're starting to kind of see the bigger picture. He looks like he's panicking. Every time that he's talked out loud ever since Carney got in, after we went through with the leadership race, he's looked like he's panicking. And he looks weak. Yeah. No offense to Pierre, but he looks weak. The dude looks like he's scrambling, and he looks like he's worried, and he's trying to come across as this big tough guy, but it's like it doesn't even suit him, you know? He's more of a nerdy kid, and the tough guy act like doesn't really stick that well.
Yeah, but I think you hit it really well there, because as you said, like, I saw it too, like his last speech, I think it was, he looked really sort of, how do I put it?
Worried.
He looked nervous. Yeah, he looked worried. He looked nervous. He did not look like he was having a good time anymore.
No, I think that what he's banking on, though, is the other guys that are kind of like pulling the labor work for him, which is like the right wing influencers and podcasters, and like that's why people are voting this way. When we were on JB's live yesterday, we had one guy come up who was like totally agreeing that like Trump is bad and MAGA is bad, but then he's going to vote for Pierre here. And we're like, where do you get your news about our country, like about what's going on? And we were talking to him, and it ends up that, you know, he was getting his news from his X feed. And we're like, okay, well, what are you into? Well, I'm into hockey. I'm a big hockey guy. So like the algorithm of hockey guys in Canada are now being pushed all of this like rebel news and right-wing propaganda. So that's why people are believing these things, because they're believing straight up propaganda that they're getting on their feeds, depending on what social platform they use. And a lot of them aren't checking it, because people these days can't be bothered to just Google something that takes them 2 minutes. And we're in this information age where people need fast information now. Like most people don't even have the patience to be able to get through a 5-minute video, let alone, you know, reading a whole article. So we're, you know, the people that are going to vote that way are going to vote that way because of the propaganda at this point. It's not even going to be because of Pierre.
And you're absolutely right. It's like these guys are focused on this. Like this is my guy. I can't see anybody else, and I think that's kind of the thing too. Like they can't see anybody else because they haven't been allowed to look at anybody else. It's got to be this guy to them. That's it. That's all. Which is horrifying because
Yeah.
that's exactly our concern.
Yep. Oh, you gotta own the libs. Own the libs. That's the only thing they
Exactly.
care about is owning the libs. They don't care about what actually happens or policy or economics because they can't even understand that stuff most of the time. It's just about owning the libs.
I think they're doing
So,
this. I think they're doing this to protect him. He's getting advice, right? Advice, and they're telling him not to participate in anything because they don't want him to make any kind of error.
because he's gonna make an ass out of himself.
That
You know it. I can see him. Like I can literally see him in a debate with Carney, being very shaky.
I wish Elizabeth May was in the debate with them because she would have owned him. It would be so great. That would be great TV. I'm just throwing it out there to the universe. That would be amazing TV. Elizabeth May versus PP. It would be great. I think we'd all watch. We'd all watch.
Oh,
At WWE
we definitely would all
event.
watch. We definitely all watch, but yeah, unfortunately, I think like JB was mentioning, it's definitely not going to be something we're going to see because he knows there's no solution that way now. Like he can't. It's just never going to happen. He's never going to win if he
I hope
tries.
this works out in her favor. I really do. I hope this works out in her favor. I hope that some of those like on the fence conservatives that are like, I just hate liberals and NDPers and the rest of them, but like I'm not really a big fan of this guy right now, because there is a lot of them. So those ones see this and they're like, this guy isn't even willing to talk to journalists. He's not even willing to do debates. He's not willing to get a security clearance. He's literally not doing anything that is for the betterment of this country outside of just make fun and be critical of these other people. Something's off.
There is something that needs to be cracked through though, because like a lot of these guys are also willing about just enjoying the enjoying the takedowns, the put downs. They're reveling in it. It's that whole they're enjoying the cruelty more than they're enjoying, actually thinking about the consequence of politics. They're just like their team. Again, sports guys, you can get them into your politics, and once they're there, they're going to be there for life because, go team.
Yeah.
And so waking up, I don't know if this is going to be. There's a fair amount of them. They're never going to wake up. Like it's just never going to happen.
There definitely is a huge amount of them. I've lost several really close friends because of this. One of them, funny enough, hockey dude, etc., that I've already listed earlier, and I could not believe I watched somebody I care about go right down the red pill rabbit hole, and I missed all the signs. And I think it's really important that we reach out to people who maybe don't have as much person-to-person influence and interaction in a day, because I think those are the people who really are susceptible to being recruited to this cult, because they feel not seen, not heard, not cared about, not loved, and so they don't have relationships that are going to help anchor them to reality. And I think that's where we can come in, is create that relationship, even if it's virtually, for them to feel safe and cared about and understood and loved. Because I honestly think that's where we lose a lot of the people who were on the tipping point so easily, is because they're like, well, they don't understand me and they don't care to understand me. And that's it. We lost them. They're gone. I hope we can change that. I feel like we can. We're a good group. We can do it.
Have you seen the new polls now? 338?
Yeah, it's getting pretty balanced.
Yes, it's actually 55 as for the Liberals,
Oh, I was muted. I was going to say let's welcome Spirit to the panel.
Welcome up, Spirit.
Hello. Hello.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
What do
from
you want to add
Saskatchewan.
into the Okay, cool.
What do I want to add in?
Yeah.
I'm at this point I don't trust any party that Canada has to offer.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like. Are they for the betterment of the people? Because if you look at Canada Aid gives out billions of dollars to like countries like Ghana and all that. If they really cared about the people, they could. There's 40 million of us. They could give us $1 million each. There's still billions of dollars they put out of the country, and then they act like there's not enough money for the farmers. They act like there's not enough money.
You're a little bit
Americans.
muffled. You're a little bit muffled right now, and it's hard to hear everything properly.
Front line, you also get some background noise that's killing some
I
lights.
hear a background noise, a vehicle driving. Yeah, there we go. I was saying like there's Canada Aid that give out billions of dollars with the people's money out in all these different countries for different programs. There's 40 million of us in Canada. If our government cared about us, they would give each of us $1 million. There would still be billions of dollars left over.
Do you know why we help other countries and the fact that it's only a small percentage of our money that actually goes towards helping other countries?
Well, like 100 million to Jordan, that's quite a bit of money. That's just one country right there. From Canada,
100
that's
100 million?
112 million, yeah.
That's not that much.
Added up to over 19 different countries, that's a lot. That's over $1 billion. What are you talking about? That's not much. That's the people's tax money. Why is it going out of the country? They could bring it in. They could give the farmers more money.
I need to look at straight numbers in front of me so I can pull up some numbers, but I'm okay with helping other countries because I don't look at my country as like the most important thing ever. I look at all of us as a global humanity as important. I believe that all people have equal value in this world, and we should be taking care of the ones that are undergoing much more difficult times than we are. We're also peacekeepers. We want to be able to have good relations with everybody in the world. We want to be able to help people in order to avoid wars down the road. We also want to help other people so that we have good trade relations with them. This is a globalized world that we're living in. That is just the way that it works. We have to have relationships with other countries around the globe. And when we help people and we're the good guys that go in and help, then we are respected as world leaders and of world helpers. People think of Canada as one of the most peaceful places because of that, because we've tried so hard to be the peacekeepers and the helpers. And we don't actually give as much aid as you probably think we do. I know I've looked at this, that's why I'm going to go pull up the numbers. But I don't see a problem with taking some of our money and spending it on helping other people in the world that really need it. Joe, if you want to take this away while I look up numbers, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to ask Joe quickly, what do we give this aid for? Do we give it for medical help? Do we give it for educational help?
Sorry, I just stepped away.
Yeah, Joe, you probably know more, but that was my thought, was do we give it for...
You'll need to repeat the question. Unfortunately, I wasn't. I had to. There's another article that I got sent. I'll bring up later. But what's the question?
The question was about the amount of money that we give specifically to Jordan every year as aid, and I was wondering, do those funds go for medical aid, for political aid, for all sorts of? Because there's a lot of reasons that we would give aid to other countries around the world.
We give a lot of money. Yeah, we announced in 2022.
One country we gave $7 billion to, Ukraine. But what about where I live in northern Saskatchewan? We have no running water. Yeah. What about us? We're going to take care of us. We're going to keep sending it over to the country. Like, what about
your province
no running water?
So your province is. So
I'm a federal.
Your province. Hang on a sec. Your province has been getting a lot of money to send to programs, not just Saskatchewan. We see the same frustration in Ontario. The provinces are getting a lot of money, but the provinces are sitting on the money and not doing anything. So, so this is one of the frustrations where people are being told, well,
Water.
it's all Justin Trudeau. If you keep blaming Justin Trudeau, you're never going to get anything done because that allows them to continue to do what they're doing to you, which is denying you services because they have somebody else to shift the blame to. And when you shift the blame to the wrong person, it's never gonna get fixed. It's like going to the complaint
Well,
department what do I call it, in A&W to complain about McDonald's food. A&W is not gonna
Joe,
be able to help you. McDonald's won't give a damn about it.
you get to use the toilet. Some of the people in my community have to go to an outhouse because we don't have no running water. Like, why can't the money
I'm
come back
not.
into Canada?
I'm not saying that's a terrible situation, and you're absolutely right. You should have all the basic needs accommodated to you. But money was sent to address this. The provinces are not doing that. Just because we're sending 95 million right now to Jordan doesn't necessarily mean that there's not enough money to also send it to the provinces
First
to
Nation
address these
communities
things.
that deal with the federal
Yeah.
government. The First Nation community doesn't deal with the province.
So if it's the first way,
Eventually
okay.
it
So
sucks, like mine in
yeah.
Alberta.
So all right. So I mean, if we're talking about one specific community, then yeah, we'd probably have to go through and figure out where the money is going and why it hasn't been addressed. I know
Even
there's
in
a lot of
Alberta.
communities that haven't been fixed. There's still some communities that are still being worked on. I don't know the full status of that, and I think Monday nights there's an Indigenous group that speaks on here on Beaver Politics that can probably give you any better description of what's going on, where the money is, and where it's going. But to say that the money going over to this place is taken away from that community, that's not true, and there's no cases of that. Like we don't drop money for programs within Canada to send it to other
I was
places.
in I was in Africa there. I have a
Mm-hmm.
friend. I'm gonna invite him here. He'll tell
Mm-hmm.
you what Canada Aid does with the money being sent over there in his country.
What Canada Aid does with the
Yeah,
money being
Canada
sent to the
Aid,
country?
Canada AID. That's what they're called. Canada
Okay.
AID. They give out a lot of money to a lot of countries. That people of Canada, we have the right to know where they're sending it and what for, because that's your people's tax money and all that.
Okay, so
So
Canada
I just want
AID,
to know
I don't.
why they send it out. What about the First Nation communities that have no running water, no
I,
schools? What about
okay.
us here? Like, we're in Canada.
Okay, that usually is to try to detract from. That's usually a very excellent point from the right wing to, yeah, let's stop sending out the money because we need to help the people inside the country. And then when we get inside the country, well, we don't have the money, so we're not going to be helping anybody there. This is just an argument that allows you to not spend money in either place. Instead of trying to
Hold on,
argue for. Sorry?
I'm not finding anything that says that there's a thing that's called Canadian aid. Like we give aid through different, through different systems and organizations, but we do not have an organization called Canada Aid.
I was looking at the same thing too while I was talking there. We don't have a Canada Aid or Canada Aid or any permutation of the names. I'm
I
not
feel
finding
like
anything.
whatever.
We have a Canada Aid.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
We don't have
And
we don't have a program or organization called Canada Aid. At least not one that's registered with the government. Do you have more details as to what it is?
But when you look up where the Revenue Canada is, they give a American address at Pennsylvania Avenue.
Huh?
Sorry.
Yeah, if you look that up, find out where the Revenue Canada headquarters is. It'll give you American address.
What?
Yeah,
no, Revenue
if
Canada is here in
If
Ottawa.
you look up the IRS too, the IRS says the Corporation of Canada is owned by the Corporation of the United States. I'm like, that doesn't make sense when I was looking
The
in there.
IRS
Like,
does not run in Canada. It's
You
supposed to
are
run in
going
Canada.
down
I'm
some
going off what
crazy
the IRS
conspiracy rabbit
website
holes.
Yeah, no,
Go to the
I'm
IRS
literally
website.
going to shut this down right now if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go for
You
it.
guys okay with that? Because as somebody who works in accounting and has been working in accounting for 20 plus years, if it is not a government funded something that the CRA is going to substantiate, you are being fooled. The IRS has nothing to do with Canadian corporations, nonprofits, et cetera, unless they're working in the US, in which case that only has anything to do with US income, revenue, etc. So if it is actually a Canadian company functioning in Canada, you would be able to validate and check it regarding with the CRA, etc., etc. So whatever you've been told is not true, and you really need to validate your information because that is complete BS. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's coming
Sorry.
out anyway. It's coming out. You guys will hear more about it. The majority-
We always hear that statement, it's coming out, and it never does.
No.
I've been hearing this for various things. It never comes out. There's always the same confidence. I know we don't know what we're talking about. We're going to find out. It's going to be coming out. It's coming out in publications. It never happens. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Where do you get your information from, Spirit? Where do you consume your news and your information?
On the internet, like everybody else.
Cool. There's a lot of different sources on the internet. Do you mind maybe letting us know where you go to get your news from? Where do you go to learn these things?
Whatever, like I looked into the IRS website. I went there directly to that one, and that's where I was like, that doesn't make no sense. I was saying, 'cause I disagree with that myself, but it's actually that's website.
Where do you get your sources of news from? Like, what made you go to the IRS website?
Well, my wife is American, and we're doing some things there, and that's where I went to use that. She's from Oklahoma.
Okay. So your wife called you up and said, hey, you should go on the IRS website, which is an American website, in order to learn about Canada? Because this whole thing started with you talking about...
I don't actually have to explain myself when I went there, but I'm telling you that was a reason. It was mostly her. I went with her and she noticed that too. I'm just like, it's not a big deal.
Where do you consume most of your news? Where does it come from? Are you getting it on your Twitter X feed? Are you getting it on YouTube? Are you reading researched articles by intellectuals and scientists? Where are you getting your information from? Where do you learn?
On the internet.
You what?
Like everybody else, on the internet. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. What are you getting so mad about? Like,
I'm not getting angry. I'm asking questions. I'm just asking questions because you made some pretty wild claims, and I wanted to understand where they came from. That's it.
And you know what? I set them out so you guys can go look in, find out Canada Aid, right? Like, the information's there.
There is no such thing as Canada Aid.
Yeah,
there is.
There is no such thing. It's not even a charitable organization.
You're right. It wouldn't be.
It doesn't exist.
And you should be able to source where you found the information to support where Canada Aid is.
Somebody in the comments or whatever will end up looking through it and finding. One person will find it, and that's all that matters. I'm not gonna like, you know what? If it ain't there, then I'm wrong. It is what it is. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna.
So I tell you right now, I've got a system with it's a high-powered system. I do a lot of searches. I've gone through all my sources. There is no Canada Aid.
Well,
are you willing to admit you might be wrong? Then. Sorry?
Then I guess there's no Canada Aid. I'm fine with that.
Okay. But you were very focused that we were going to find out about this. Why were you so attached to that idea?
Unfortunately, you can't. You know what I mean? I'm open to disagreeing, but I know there is money out there. There is a Canada Aid, and you just can't find it. You can't find it. I don't know what to say.
But if you
if there was a national type of organization similar to USAID that Canada had, you think it would be hard to find for people? Obviously not. It would be very mainstream.
There's an Australian Aid.
Oh, I found it. I think I found the website. I think I found it, guys.
A lot of countries have the aid backed by it, but who controls that? That's what I want to know.
I think
Tiffany, you're going in and out. I don't.
I'll see if I can move. It's because I keep switching screens on my phone.
So yeah,
we're losing you.
Yeah. She's teacupping. That's why. So if a nation is doing aid, whether it's an organization of aid, it could be another government organization, in which case the government's going to be involved in regards to deciding where that aid is going to go. But if it's a private charitable organization, they're going to have a board of their own, and they're going to decide where their funds are going to go. So it depends what the organization is and their structure and where the funding is coming from. All these things already have answers.
Prime Minister now named Mark Carney, and he's going to keep that covered. He's not going to let you guys know about it.
How does that have anything to do with what I just talked about?
I'm just saying it relates all to the same person. How can we have a prime minister that doesn't even hold a seat, wasn't even voted in by the people, but he's running the country?
Okay, so you're parroting. You're parroting. You're parroting.
You are parroting conservative talking points. He was voted in by members of the Liberal Party because that is how our government system works. When a prime minister steps down and resigns, we have to replace him with another one. And the people who decide that are members of the Liberal Party because we don't vote for a prime minister. We vote for a representative MP. So members of the Liberal Party did vote for him.
He's not MP though.
It doesn't matter. That's already happened in our history. You don't have to be an MP to become the prime minister because, again, the prime minister
is you have to have a special title. Mark Carney's got a special title. That's why he's able to get in there.
Oh my God, that's not true.
Yeah, he is. He's got a special title. Yes, he is. That's why he was able to run in there.
That is not the case. He ran in there.
100% true.
Okay, can I just say a few words here, Frontline? Kim Crutch.
Yeah, jump in.
Okay.
Jump in.
In 1993, Kim Campbell became the leader of the Conservative Party and then by default the Prime Minister of Canada. Why? Brian Mulroney retired, stepped down. Then the Canadian people had a chance to say, you know what? Do we accept her as leader of the Conservatives to be our Prime Minister or do we not? And we decided, you know what? No. The Conservatives got 2 seats in that election in 1993. And what happened with Carney, Spirit, or whatever your name is the exact same thing. And there's been instances like this in Canadian history where a party chooses a leader so that in the event of the death of the president, the vice president fills in. The government still functions. In the event of the death of the vice president, the Speaker of the House is next in line. The government still functions. In Canada, if the Prime Minister resigns or dies, the cabinet can pick an interim leader or they can go to a national convention to vote a new leader to get them into the next election. Putting that aside, about foreign aid, in the early 1970s, Canada joined with the rest of the world to agree to a 0.7% of the gross national product to go to the developing countries. You know, the countries that we put in those positions because of colonialism. And so we decided to go 0.7, and we've never, ever reached that target. The highest we got was over this last term at 0.52% of the gross national product. We have a moral responsibility to contribute to the developing world because if countries like Jordan are destabilized, our own security is going to be affected. This is ridiculous. And as far as Canadian aid is concerned, it would either be a non-governmental organization, an NGO, that you might be talking about, but then other than that, it has to come directly from the government of Canada. Period. So, in short, Mark Carney was only elected leader of the Liberal Party, and he's an interim prime minister until people like you have a chance to vote him out. 2, we need to contribute to the third world and to the developing world and to Ukraine. Because if Ukraine falls, Western Europe falls. And if Western Europe falls, we have no stability in Western world. And we're going to collapse. And if that's what you want,
and we get pulled into World War III because if Russia goes further than Ukraine and, you know, let's say they accidentally drop a missile in, say, Poland, then that makes it so that all NATO countries have to come together to fight the aggressor, which means that we get pulled into war.
Precisely. Western Europe's stability is what we need to lean on. Period. And that's even before the Americans went after us and denounced us as enemies of their country. Anyway, there you go.
Well, I just want to say Mark Carney's the only reason why he's in there because he's part of the World Economic Forum.
Oh, dear God.
It would have
There's
been
a whataboutism.
Christine
Oh,
Freeland should have been after Trudeau was out.
Okay,
because she
what
was
do
the
you
deputy-
think? What
No,
do
no,
you
no,
think
no.
the World
It was
Economic
planned. They knew
Forum
that they were gonna
is?
Yeah.
What do you think the World Economic Forum is? You guys all think that it's this crazy
According to
boogeyman.
Claude Schwab, it's for young global leaders to run his certain agenda.
Oh, dear God.
Probably to have his foot in the door for every country. That's
Do
right.
you understand how many different global think tanks like the WEF already exist? It's a place where, yeah, smart, rich people go talk about how to get things done. Why is that a bad thing? A lot
That's
of
a
the
bad thing because they don't care about you or me.
Okay.
That's
Rich
not
person like that
true.
wouldn't care about us.
What
You
about
do-
the
do-
They don't
IDU?
care
What about
about
the
us.
IDU that's run by Stephen Harper and that conservative
You know,
think
the
tanks from
governments
all
are
over
all
the
bad.
world
Stephen
are a
Harper's
part of
no
that?
good.
Can you let
Stephen,
Yep. You know what?
Really,
What do you
let-
want then?
let
If
Steve
they're all
talk.
bad,
he's no good.
Conservative think tank is the IDU, right? The International Democratic Union. That's what it is, right? Frontline. That's international.
Yep.
Yeah.
International
And it's
Democratic
run
Union.
by Stephen Harper, and every major conservative group across the planet is becoming or is a part of that organization. Their goal is to get far-right governments on every country on earth. And what does that mean for us in social services, the social safety net, for individual freedoms, for people like the gay and trans communities, women's reproductive rights? They're more of a threat
Don't-
to us than the world.
And don't forget religious freedom, because these are governments that want to bring Christianity in as part of government and enforce it on the country's people. So let's not forget that the IDU is also highly religious. The WEF has nothing to do with religion. It's a bunch of rich guys that are talking about how to freaking reduce carbon emissions and create better global trade and like move towards cleaner energy. That's what the WEF is. And it's been demonized by rich freaking corporate oligarchs in the oil industry, in the oil and gas industry, because it cuts into their profits and they don't like that. There's also the ARC. That's another global think tank on the complete opposite side of the WEF, where you have the richest, and I mean richest, most powerful oil billionaires that come together to make deals with conservative politicians about getting people to not care about climate change, getting conspiracies out that say that climate change is a hoax and we shouldn't deal with it at all, so that they can go in, pollute even more, cause more damage to the environment, but fatten up their bottom line. These types of think tanks are everywhere in the world, and some are good and some are bad. And you've just been made to believe that the WEF is this secret, horrible boogeyman because it was a scapegoat for all these other big bad ones. That's really what's going on there. So you have been lied to about the WEF. Every single one of you that bring it up as this boogeyman conspiracy have been lied to. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's the truth.
And why would Trump speak when he spoke to it via satellite? The master of the cult himself spoke to the World Economic Forum. Why? Why would he do that?
An honored
He
guest,
didn't
no
have
less.
something as part of that.
He was an honored guest, no less. He was the one that was there to speak to them and address them as one of their peers.
Exactly.
You've got this, you've got this a complete concern over the WF, while we have the IDU and these conservatives right now with, like, again, strong religious values, strong resource acquisition. You can see it from the states right now as they're eyeballing our territory just to try acquire as much of the land as possible, or sorry, the resources. They don't even care about the land; they care about the resources. What do you think they're going to do when they come to indigenous treaties? Do you think that's going to stop them? Do you think they're going to give you anything right now? And do you think disengaging is an even better move in regards to, I don't trust any of the parties, so I'm going to do nothing while I lose everything? Is that your best plan?
Couldn't have said it better myself. If you do not involve yourself There was
Just
one
so you know,
person-
Spear. Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say I muted you, so you do have to unmute yourself. Also, Becca in the comments, the WEF are the richest, not even close to the IDF. First of all, get it right. It's IDU, not IDF. And how do you know how rich they are and how rich the IDF is or IDU is? Tell me, like, where do you get your? Provide some sources. Show me where you learn that the WEF is richer when they actually have much less member, and they're a think tank. They're not a freaking company. Like,
invite her up here. Invite her up here. Anyways, I just want to say, well, who is a party to choose then if we're trying to have the right direction? Because I think they're all junk. I think every party that's representing Canada is
What do you need?
clearly no good in my eyes. All of them are no
In
good.
your life-
you think Elizabeth May is a joke too? The leader of the Green Party?
Hang on, let's not even
Yeah,
go
I
there.
don't think she's any better.
Who do
Yeah.
you think you need?
Jeez.
Oh, sorry. What do you need? Forget who. What do you need in your life? What is the
What
worst
do I
pain
need
points
in my life?
Yeah.
Well, what I need is for nobody to be paying taxes anymore.
Oh, dear.
Nobody to be paying property
Oh,
taxes.
Okay.
They said they only put it in for World War II, and they were
Do you
gonna
enjoy? Do you
away.
enjoy?
Oops.
I don't know what happened there.
You're back. You're back.
Do you enjoy driving on roads? Do you enjoy having public maintenance of parks? Do you
That's up to the
enjoy your
provinces,
kids
though.
being able to go to school? That's
up
all
to the provinces,
taxes.
I mean.
That's
talking about the
still
income
taxes.
The income tax. That's why Trump's put tariffs. Because he asked Congress to abolish income tax. That's how they did it before income tax was created. They used tariffs. You're not old enough to know that.
No, they didn't. That's not what they did.
They used tariffs before they used income tax. Do the research.
That's-
know your
yeah, and
history,
that's what-
people, before
And
you-
that's
You
what
did.
crashed
You did.
the economy.
It
That's what
crashed. It caused the Great
economy.
Depression.
Tariff wall.
No,
caused-
that's
it was the
Can you just listen to when we're talking to you?
When
You
have
literally,
tariffs,
all you do
it's-
is you
people
repeat
don't pay
point after
taxes.
point.
Because
Oh my
give me
God.
a minute, then you got.
Mute him.
No, I'm sorry. I'm muting you because you're just repeating yourself here. Just please listen to what the people on the panel have to tell you. The last time that was tried, we went into the Great Depression. That kills the economy. Taxes are an integral part of an evolving, running society. I'll let you guys take it away though, because you were
Okay.
talking. Joe was
It-
talking. T-Jack was talking. No, go for it, T-Jack. Take it away.
Okay. In 1917, the Conservatives
Go ahead.
brought in a federal income tax. That was supposed to be a temporary tax to help fund the war effort. But one of the things that they discovered is you could actually get stuff done if you had that money coming in. And so we've still got the world's longest temporary tax with us today, the income tax. Because you know what? You can actually get a healthcare system. You can actually pay for things like a social safety net. You can have pensions for Canadians. We didn't have pensions. We didn't have a social safety net in the 1800s, early 1900s. We didn't have any of that. None of it was possible, and we depended on our neighbors. Well, sometimes you can't depend on your neighbor. It's an investment. Taxes are an investment in Canadians. They're an investment in our environment. They're an investment in our industry, in our manufacturing base. Taxes, end of discussion, are an investment. If you don't want to pay taxes, then let's go to tolls. There are 17 toll roads, or is there 9? There's less than 20 toll roads in Canada, and there's thousands of tolled roads in the United States, meaning you can't get on them if you don't pay. It's a user fee society. And if you're comfortable with that, move there. But I would rather invest in Canadians so that every damn highway I get on, I don't have to pay as I go. Thank you.
Can I just say that I find it interesting that you think that tariffs are a way to cut taxes from the people? If you look at Donald Trump's tax plan, he actually increased the taxes to everybody with the exception of the top two brackets. The second top bracket got a tax cut and the top bracket got a massive tax cut. But everybody else making under $360,000 their taxes increased. So can you explain to me how the tariffs counter the tax increase that he implemented just before putting in tariffs? And tariffs, by the way, are paid by the consumer. So when the US brings in goods from another country that tariffs are on, the customer pays for that extra 25%.
They don't actually do
They
that. If
do.
you look at
They
the history,
do. No, no,
before
you don't
income
have to
tax was
look at
invented,
anything
the
other
countries
than
all
the
ran off of
facts.
tariffs because
You don't know.
it took away from the
Tariffs,
people paying the tax.
tariffs hurt the
Hey,
people
do the history
buying
on
the
it, my friend,
product.
before you talk about it, because the tariffs actually means there should be no reason for us to pay income tax at work anymore if you're going to bring tariffs in.
Oh my
I'm
God,
a
you're like,
Canadian. I'm not
where do
American.
you
Do the
get this
research.
I don't
information?
even know
This
how
is
to find
ridiculous.
it out.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
You're right. It takes away from
No, what it
the
does
consumer
is
buying it. No, it doesn't. No,
what
that's why
it does, listen, if
that's what
you buy a
were
t-shirt,
you alive?
if
None of us
if
were
I'm a
alive
Canadian
before
and I
income tax
sell a
was here.
t-shirt to the US for $10,
That's not how
okay,
it works, my
I
friend.
get my
That's not how.
$10.
It is how it works.
Listen, Linda. If I sell a t-shirt to the US for $10, I get my $10. The consumer pays $15, right? Because the government wanted to impose a percentage that your consumer buys. So the American who buys it pays the $15. I still get my 10. You pay 15, and that 5 goes to the American government. And he's not cutting your taxes. He's going to
You're
pocket
wrong.
that. I'm not wrong.
No, he's
Yeah,
not
you
wrong.
are.
Google
Oh
it.
no, he's giving
I'm
tax
not
cuts
wrong.
to the ultra wealthy to the
Yeah.
tune of
Nobody's even American here.
Is it 4
We'll
billion
just
or
have to
trillion? I
watch.
think it's trillion. I think
Pay
it's trillion,
attention.
right?
He needs to
Like,
find $4 trillion in order to
well then
appease
tax
his
the ultra
tax
wealthy
breaks that
instead
he
of giving them
promised them
cuts.
to the ultra
Only
wealthy.
150,000 plus have to pay tax. Income tax is what they have before in the states.
Yeah,
For that.
he's cutting the ultra wealthy
Anyone
income
under
tax.
that will have no income tax.
Only the
That's-
ultra wealthy will
Pay
Exactly.
have
attention.
no
Pay
tax.
attention as the months go on. When people work in the states, they will not pay
Frontline, you're
income tax
enjoying
anymore.
this.
Why don't you look at his plan?
There will be
His
no
plan
income tax in the states
clearly
anymore because my
outlines
wife
that
is
everybody
working
making
over
under
there. They're taking away the income
360,000.
tax because of the tariffs.
No, that's not how
Yes,
tariffs
they are.
work.
Go PJ.
That is not how
Wait till the
tariffs
time
work.
comes, my friends. Wait a couple more months away. There'll be no income tax.
Can I say something really quickly? Because I haven't said anything in a while. Spirit, I really feel the most important thing you can do is look up what the different levels of government in Canada are responsible for, so that you understand who to actually be angry about, and who to be angry with. First of all, because most of your concerns are provincial in nature. Second of all, you need to look at what Trump's plan is, because what he's doing is creating first of all, a tax cut to the ultra wealthy. Yes, the top 1 to 10%, depending on how you look at the numbers, of the population, and everybody else who's below the several hundred thousand a year mark in income is going to pay more every year. And third, you need to understand exactly what your taxes go towards in Canada, what they actually pay for, the services
Canada
that
Aid.
you get to use. Because you know what? A lot of what you've been complaining about is all stuff that, yes, you know what? There are sections of Canada that we as a federal or provincial or city / township / etc. have failed on. And yes, you know what? You should hold your local government accountable for failing to provide you the services that you paid your taxes for, and I encourage you to go and call them and email them every day until they come up with a plan to fix it. But what you're spouting off is not actually true. And
It's
fourth,
true.
you know what?
We're gonna
Aid
watch it.
towards other countries benefits Canada as well as the rest of the planet. Guess what? Canada is not an island unto itself. We are not alone in this world. It is our responsibility, as well as every other nation, to ensure that everyone on this planet gets to have a certain level of living, all of our environment be taken care of jointly. We are global citizens, and we need to act as such, and I hope that that never changes. I hope that Canada always remains the go-to of friendly faces and the country to ask if you're ever in trouble. I hope that never ever changes. I think that's the legacy of what it is to be Canadian. If you ask us to show up, we are there with whatever you need. Shame on anyone who thinks that we shouldn't be doing that. As human beings on this planet, forget just the country. Shame on anyone who thinks that.
I just figured it should have came to the people of Canada first. That's all.
No, Canada, America First was a KKK slogan. Okay, so Canada First is the step from that. So I need to also address the 11 billion to foreign countries for gender studies. Gender studies, what you're talking about is we supported women in other countries because they have very limited rights. Your gender studies, your fear and your anger is misguided.
They got their own laws in those countries. We shouldn't be able to go to another country and
we need to support.
We can't do nothing about it.
Listen, you'd be the first one to say, "Oh, we have 10 cities. My heart is bleeding." Right? And now you're saying, "Oh, women are suffering in other countries. We should just
actually,
suffer."
What I was saying before you got on here was, I said, where I live in northern Saskatchewan, in our community, there's no running water. You know, we've no toilets here. There's no school.
So
what about us?
Scott
You guys want to send all the money out to all the other countries and not worry
you
about
might
us
want to write. You might want to write to
over
Scott
water.
Moe then, who's responsible for all that. Scott Moe. You want me to spell it out for you?
That's your premier.
That is your premier. Write to that guy. Write to that conservative
I'm on
guy.
reserved land,
right?
so I don't contain to the province. I'm to the federal government.
The federal government has nothing to do with what is Scott Moe's responsibility.
Well, they don't.
Are you capable of understanding simple concepts?
We don't get any
You didn't
provincial
understand
government
tariffs, and
dollars.
now you don't understand who's responsible for your water.
You don't get provincial government.
You're
dollars.
not. Are you Indigenous? Are you Indigenous?
I'm a
Are you living
Canadian,
on a reserve?
I am. Yep.
You are? Then yeah, your federal government is responsible for your water. Then maybe you should talk to your band leader and see what's going on with your water, right? Because 105 boiling advisories
They want to give
have been
$7
lifted
billion to
through those.
Ukraine, and they want to give out to those countries for women to help them, like you guys said. Remember?
No.
Yeah,
Isaac,
we need to
why
help
does
our
your
allies.
band leader? No.
Okay.
Why does your band leader want to give $7 billion to anybody?
No, I meant the government of Canada. They want to give out the money out of the country.
Well, no.
rather than
Again,
helping all the reserves.
you're to get
There's the water lines made this way.
your band leader to get what you need.
They didn't want to build water lines and natural gas lines this way, so we got to run on wood stoves.
What did your band leader say?
Well, they've been asking for that for how long? It's probably too costly to lay out 1,000 kilometers of pipeline.
Are you sure about that?
Pipeline.
Because I feel like that doesn't seem very accurate. And if so, then you should be writing to the federal government, because if this is actually a reserve, then you know what, that is definitely the federal government's responsibility. And I hope and expect them to honor any thing that is within their responsibility. And if you write to them and you talk to your band leader combined and they don't give you reasonable answers, please feel free to DM me. I would happily lend my voice in support as much as I can, because that is not okay. This is Canada, and we take care of all of the agreements that we make to everybody within this country and internationally. And I hope that that is the legacy that we as Canadians leave.
Everybody, hold on. Everybody that just keeps on saying in the comments too that Canada can't afford to continue to send money to Ukraine and all this other stuff. Yes, we can. Because just because we've had issues at home doesn't mean we've had issues because the money wasn't there. It's because the money was not properly allocated and dealt with. It's because people and even though there has been issues, as we know, with First Nations land not having access to clean drinking water, this Liberal government made the most steps forward in terms of that than any other government in our past. They were not perfect at it, and they still have, I think, 13% more to go. But out of the 100%, they've already gotten about 87% of those lands that now have clean water. So
reserves. Running water.
Can I give you a pro tip?
It's still the first government that did anything about it.
Yeah, and can I give you a pro tip? While you have a Liberal government, now is the time to ask for things, because in your Conservative government that you sit for, they want you to assimilate.
Smarshy, you can talk after. Go for it,
Okay.
Smarsh.
So while the Liberal government did a lot for us, I understand where there is confusion because, yeah, we deserve drinking water on the clean drinking water on the reserves. Absolutely. Everybody. There is an article, I wish I had it on hand, that says the federal government of Canada says they don't owe clean drinking water to reserves. I think that's what the article he's talking about. I'm not sure, but as one Indigenous person to another, I'm heartbroken that you're having trouble getting clean drinking water. And if you're not talking to your band leader, you need to go up and talk to your MP. And if you're not talking to your MP, go a step further. Go to someone else that will listen to you, write to someone else that will listen to you. As an Indigenous person, I will scream, fight, and yell at anyone to get you what you need. That is what I'm doing. I'm done up with this. As far as like taxes, we should not be paying taxes as Indigenous people. But here we are. We're paying taxes.
Nobody should. They only brought in for
No,
World
no,
War II.
No,
no,
we
They brought in
should.
for
We
miners.
should.
no.
They
Everybody else
created the
outside of
income
an
tax.
Okay,
Nobody should.
but spirit,
Absolutely
spirit,
nobody
spirit,
should.
spirit,
No, can you
spirit,
please
spirit,
listen to her?
spirit.
Nobody should.
We, as Indigenous people, should not be paying taxes. Everyone
Well,
else outside that bracket should be paying taxes. But here
well,
we are, right? But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The federal government is actually responsible for you to have clean drinking water, and he'll tell you why. Because the federal land is not owned by Crown, it's owned by the government of Canada. And with that being said, they have a responsibility to make sure everyone on the land that they are controlling, that they put our people on, have clean drinking water. Now there are 86% done. There's an I have the I have the stats. I just don't have them on me right now. But here's the thing, okay? I'm gonna let you know. If you want, you can add me, and we can come up with a way to get to the federal government to get them to get you guys clean drinking water because that's a necessity. That's life, right? Again, there is a trust fund. If you're First Nations, there is a trust fund that the government has been dipping into for centuries. They have misused allocation of funds, and that's what they need to be putting that money back into reserves and have healthcare and education and all that. And the reserves should be able to be flourishing. But unfortunately, they're not because that money is no longer in there because they don't see us as fit to be working to be trustworthy of money. That's what it is. Because if you were just going to spend it on whatever they think we're going to spend it on.
And
Does
for
that
us,
make
we
sense?
should. Go ahead.
Spirit, does that make sense? Do you want me to message you all the
yeah, no, it
information I
makes
have?
sense. It makes sense, but I'm just saying the Liberal, the Conservatives, the New Democrats, the Green Party, there needs to be a different party put in there now.
Okay,
None of them
but
are
the
for the
Liberal
people.
Party actually gives a damn about us.
But
That's
I
the
think
problem.
Hold
That's
on,
the thing.
I think
hold on.
Frontline could
Time out,
tell
time
you
out,
that there are like
time out.
100 parties, right?
Yes, 100%. There is 100 parties. A lot of them are just so little that they're not going to be running for actual seats in Parliament right now. But you can vote for them 110%. Put your support behind them. Maybe in a couple of years, maybe in a couple of decades, whatever, they might hold a lot of power. But what I wanted to say to Spirit is that I would really, really want him to come on to the Monday night show that happened yesterday with Treaty Birder because she is a very brilliant Indigenous voice. And I always back away from this because it's not my place to talk about it. I'm not going to be as knowledgeable as somebody who is Indigenous, and especially like Treaty Birder, who's actually worked in the Canadian government and has the background of working in government and also being Indigenous and understanding that whole side in history. So I think that if you want to talk about that stuff, she would be a really, really good resource that could actually help you out and help put you in touch with who you need to be put in touch with in government, so that you can start to reach out to the right people to talk about what's going on your reserve and to try to get those issues dealt with faster.
Exactly. Yeah. I can actually get them in touch because I have to talk to Tarita Berger about an article I sent her. So I can just let her know about Spirit. And then
we genuinely want to help you out here when it comes to this. And there's good people in this community. There's good people in this community that know their stuff and know who to get in touch with in government. So I would really suggest that at least Smartsheet, give them a follow. If you want, put him in touch with Treaty Birder. If not, come back on a Monday evening and talk to her directly. But she can help you out.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I just want to say one thing though before I jump off here. You guys honestly will see a year from now that when you work in America, because remember, Trump asked Congress to abolish income tax, and I'm like, let's see how that works then.
Let me tell you something about taxes.
But I'm just telling you that they're gonna show the rest of us that they can continue on without their people paying income tax, and
they can't. They're making their population poor. But let me tell you something about taxes. We need to pay taxes for the simple reasons of getting education, getting healthcare, getting infrastructure, even personal security. If we don't pay taxes, we can't pay our police forces, and we're living in Mad Max type scenario. You can't have that, right? We need to pay our taxes to be able to have the life that we live, right? So I wish that you guys would stop with this whole no tax thing, because that is a message that's been implanted into your brain in order to create an impossible situation. This is never going to happen. Never will we go without taxes. Never. Never will we do it. We already have. Never. We will not do it. We will not do it. Donald Trump.
And people, hold on. People, you're talking about the good old days when people were enslaved.
Yeah.
More enslaved now than they were back then. There was less tax.
I'll give you the point about in regards
people are more enslaved now than they were when we had actual slavery.
We're not going to go with they're not more enslaved now. I'm not going to say they're not enslaved in regards to corporations and capitalism and what it represents. Yes, there's a whole diatribe and a long thing in regards to it. But what you're talking about is not real. If you want to have the good old days where we weren't paying taxes, that's great. But just get ready to lose every single one of your public services. Because we didn't have, when we weren't paying taxes, we didn't have police. We didn't have hospitals, public hospitals. We didn't have public health care. We didn't even have maintained roads. Hell, they were dirt if you're lucky. And a couple of horses before it went through. You didn't have anything. And you can have that, which means anything that you want that's similar to a public service, like medical care, you're paying out of pocket. And you better believe, you better look, you're going to be paying a fair amount, because medical services are not cheap, especially when it's in a monopoly environment. And the corporations will make sure to get to the monopoly environment. Right. You're not going to have competition because monopolies will get established. There's no government to prevent it. Because, again, no money. You're not going to have fire safety. You're not going to have police safety. You're not going to have ambulatory care unless you're willing to pay for it, again, on your own at a premium. You're not going to have anything. So, yeah, you can pay no taxes, but you get what you pay for.
You're going to get nothing. You're going to get no garbage disposal, no garbage pickup or anything. And I'm going to tell you, like I tried to say earlier, as an Indigenous person, the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, wants you to assimilate. Understand, he wants to take away your sovereignty completely. Not mine, because I'm a white male. Not mine. He's not taking mine away. He's taking yours away.
He wants to put all the Indigenous people that live on land and that live in the cities and the suburbia, whatever you want to call it, on land and off land. They want to put them back on reserves and starve them out, because he's poor the way that John A. McDonald did it. I will not call him sir. He does not deserve that title. He wants to do what John A. McDonald did when they got here. The first prime
I'm going to
minister
give.
wants. It's just
Go
what
ahead.
it is, and we can't let that happen.
Johnny
You can vote
McDonald
who
is
you
his
want.
idol.
He's a liberal, John A. McDonald.
No,
No, he was conservative.
no, he was very much conservative, my dude.
The
I will
first
send you all the information.
prime minister was a liberal in Canada.
I will send you all the information I have on him, and you can tell me if you like how he thinks,
Wasn't
and
he a
then you
slave
can go
owner
from
too?
there.
Wasn't he a slave
Yeah,
owner?
he was a slave owner. He
He
actually
was
went down
massively
to help the
racist for the time.
Confederacy fight. He is the most racist piece of shit, and Polyev wants to emulate him.
I'm going to clear a box for you, Frontline. I'm going to take off. Thank you for having me.
And Becca, sweetheart,
Thank
you need
you.
to take a civics class because
Can I
you're
say
stealing a
something
whole bunch
really?
of school.
Can I say something really just very quick? You realize that Trump is trying to challenge in court indigenous rights, period, just for citizenship even. Like, you do realize that Trump is challenging that in court, right? Like, this idol that you have of Trump is not what you think it is, because you've been fed propaganda, spoon-fed propaganda. He is trying to challenge indigenous rights, and trust me, if you look up the history of how America has treated indigenous people, let's say Canada has been terrible. I don't even have an adjective for what the USA has been. Canada has been absolutely atrocious.
If I could just say something to what Tiffany just said, I have relatives, and I don't mean like they're actually my relatives. I just mean relative by nation. I've had two people from Navajo community down in the States be deported to Guantanamo Bay. So yeah, it is actually happening because of birthright citizenship.
Well, I just want to
That's
say
not
that
all.
I'm not a fan of Trump, Tiffany. I'm just saying I want to see what he's doing, because that's the reason why he's putting the tariffs on, is because he's asking to cut income tax and replace it
Are
with
you
tariffs.
sure that's why he's putting on the are you sure that's why he's putting on the tariffs?
That's why he's putting on tariffs. That's what my wife said. My wife lives in Oklahoma. Well, she's there visiting, but she's from the States. And I'm like,
that's
oh,
maybe
your
what
wife
you guys
lives in
heard.
Oklahoma. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
Your wife lives in Oklahoma. It makes sense.
That may be what you guys
now.
are hearing. That
Well,
may be
she's
what you guys
visiting
are
over
hearing.
there, but I mean, like, that's what she's telling me. So I said, well, we'll see
Are
what
you
happens.
not
And
doing your own research?
Thank you. Let's Indigenous Mama, thank you for being here. Please go ahead.
Hi. I'm speechless actually at what you're saying there. Growing up with how we grew up on reservation, and not totally being involved in politics until I got older. I just have to say that, you have to research everything yourself. Look for all the information yourself before you form an opinion. Don't just take one person's view for it and accept it as the truth. That's how you go down a rabbit hole, like all the MAGA supporters.
well, I don't know. My wife voted Democrat. She's not a Trumper, but that's what she's telling me. That's the whole reason why he's putting the tariffs on, is to cut income
No,
tax.
no, no.
We'll see.
No, 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 no.
Terrorists have
The reason
the tariffs. I'm sorry. The tariffs are gonna create another Great Depression. They're gonna lead to another war. Research all this stuff. It's history repeating itself if we don't make informed decisions about who we want in our government.
Right. And not to mention, he wants to use
Can
the
you-
tariffs.
Sorry, I just wanted her to finish talking.
Oh no, that was
Indigenous Mama. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, she can
I
go.
just wanted to make sure you didn't get cut off. That's all.
I didn't.
No worry.
Okay, the reason he wants to put the tariffs on us is because he wants to crash our economy. He's already doing that to his own country. So by single-handedly doing that to his own country, and then trying to crash us economically by doing the tariffs that he's doing, he wants our land for resources. He doesn't give a shit about people. As long as it makes him money, he don't give a fuck. And Polyev would not, for a minute, think twice about selling us out to him for money if it made him rich.
You know why Trump's cutting the taxes in the States is because that tax money goes to the people that have been controlling the States all these years, and that's what's there's a fight between the rich 1%.
No.
That's what's going on.
He is one of the giant 1%ers that owns everything. Him and his little cronies. He's for the billionaires. He's not for the regular people. Do you understand what happens when the economy goes into the dumpster and stock markets crash and we get to a depression? Do you know what happens?
What are we?
Well, okay, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about. It's going down, but the stock prices, if that's what we're talking about, yeah, they're going down.
It's going to crash, and then your banks or cards are going to stop working, so you're going to have to, you should keep some money.
No. The billionaires are just going to buy up all their competition. The billionaires are going to buy up their competition. They're going to buy all the small businesses. They're going to be able to create monopolies because whenever there's an economic crash, the 1% get richer. It's always been that way. The richer gets richer and the poor gets poorer. This is all a strategized plan to make the top 1% of the world even richer off our backs. And you're trying to tell me that he's doing it for the good of the people. It's not for the good of the people. The people will suffer.
I said there's a fight between the rich 1% right now. Trump's on other half of it, and then the other half. That's why he's cutting income tax to affect them. Haven't you noticed the last couple of years?
1%.
Oh my God! You have no idea what you're talking about.
The 1% is there's a fight. Well, maybe he's probably taken over. Maybe he's the new 1%.
No.
I think
he's owned by the
1%.
He's owned by the 1%.
No,
he's not doing anything. There's no war between
1% right now.
No, there's not.
Oh my God!
No, there's not.
Dude, you're so lost.
That's why
No. There is no fight.
You guys all know it. You feel it. That's what that whole little thing is going on. There's a change in power.
No.
It's not.
The bid to take power was the election, and he won. And now he's going to cut the income taxes for the extremely ultra wealthy. He's going to raise the taxes for the poor. He's going to ensure that the poor go back into poverty so they're easier to control and get to work forever for the ultra wealthy so the ultra wealthy can continue to enslave them, use them for their own reason, and ensure that they make sure lots of money. It's not, he's not going to make you richer. Paying pick me for Trump isn't going to give you anything.
There's a fight within the 1% right now.
No, there isn't.
There is no fight in the 1%.
We're feeling it.
No.
What are they feeling, and why is there a fight? You know what? Let's
Hold
break this
on.
down.
1%
What
at a
is the
time.
fight? What is? Let's break this down. What is the fight between? No. What's the fight between 1%? Which group and which group?
Let me say here. Look at you got Trump, which is 0.5 of the, and then you got the other 0.5, which makes up a 1%. There's a fight been going on the last few years. That's why everything has been coming out with all the misinformation and everything. There's a bunch of lies coming out, and there's a bunch of truths coming out. There's probably a shift in power here.
So you understand there's more than one. There's more than one or two people in the 1%, right? Like there's a lot of people in the 1%.
There's a lot of people in the 1%. They're all rich, and half of them are fighting half of them. So
okay, but what are they fighting each other over? What are they fighting each other over?
You tell me. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out, but it has to do with the governments and everything.
But you made the claim. This is the problem. If you make a claim with such assertion that this is definitely the war that explains everything, you need to walk us through it.
I'm going to be honest.
We can't just accept it.
I think it's. I'm going to tell you then. I think it's between Trump, which is majestic, and the Illuminati, which is the Jesuits. That's what I think it is.
What?
There you go.
Okay, the Illuminati and the who?
and Majestic, which is Trump and QAnon and all that bullshit. That's those
Okay,
guys.
Majestic and QAnon versus the Illuminati. Okay.
The
Okay, so
Jesuits.
what is the
Jesuits.
battle over? Is it over money? Is it over souls? Is there Pokemon cards at play? What are we talking about here?
Basically, world power and exposure of a lot of high elites that they're doing dirty stuff right now. We're seeing that with celebrities. And everything. It's a
World power.
It's a fight between the 1%.
Okay, they're not going to fight for world power because I'm gonna rock your world. They already have it. There's no fight for it. They already have it.
Why are they exposing each other then? Why are they exposing each other then? Why is there people fighting going on? Like,
who's fighting?
Why are all the deeds coming out?
Who's fighting?
Who's been exposed?
But who's been fighting and
P.
who's been
Diddy's
exposed?
Epstein's been exposed.
Epstein was probably exposed because he exposed himself to far too many people that were underage.
Even P. Diddy. That's all has to rely with Trump and all of them. That's all related to Trump and all of them. That's all related to the 1%.
It's related to freaking dudes that need to stop exposing themselves to minors.
Right.
Like,
Trudeau was there.
What does that have to do?
No, he wasn't.
Who is not there?
No, he
It's
wasn't.
slander people.
No.
We deserve to know the
Don't.
truth. All these
You can
leaders.
go
We
with
deserve to
facts
know
and bring
what
us
they're
facts
doing.
or stuff that
That's why I
actually
don't
occurred,
agree
but
with
you
no
cannot bring us
politicians
stuff that never
because they're all
happened. I'm
dirty.
sorry. You cannot state stuff that didn't happen and pretend it's fact. We're not going to accept it. Trudeau did not go there. There is no evidence of that. If you want to show us evidence of that, then we'll talk
He's
about
linked
it.
to the Clintons.
So is
He's
any
linked to the
government
Epstein,
figure that
so?
went to Clinton.
Even Trump is probably tied in there with Epstein. All of them are. They're all dirty. The whole governments are dirty. All of them.
What does
When
that
the
have to
people
do
realize
with
that,
the conversation?
this means that every country needs a new government because it's been corrupt, and we all think it's all for this and that, and we're all fighting amongst these.
This is why our society is failing.
They're not.
I know. I was like, Spirit. I'm actually. I just looked up right now, and I realized that that frontal line and I are in the same position. I need you to do something for me, Spirit. I need you to try. I'm not talking about a huge effort here, but I just need you to try to just, if anything you're going to believe, check
It's
it
all
out.
related. It's the pandemic. Everything is all related to this fight.
Is it all related, or is it all just a blur right now?
No, it's all
because
it's all
both
clear.
are
Same
different. They
lies.
feel the same, but they're kind of different.
It's all for these politicians' agendas. What's in Ukraine that they want to protect? You know what I mean? It's so much of everything.
Democracy.
Is it
Europe.
real?
Europe. All of Europe. Democracy. That's what we want to protect when we're protecting Ukraine. And on top of it, you are looking at Canada, who has the second largest Ukrainian population outside of Ukraine. So a lot of us have ancestors here. Yes, colonial ancestors, and that's a whole nother, I'm happy to have a whole discussion all about that another time. But at this point, a lot of us have ancestors or are Ukrainian, and this is our family. Like, we protect.
There's that. There's that. There's also like the Budapest Memorandum, where Ukraine decided to say, hey, like, we're giving up our nuclear weapons so that we have support, but not. I mean, Canada wasn't even part of it. We're just doing it from the goodness of our own hearts. America signed the Budapest Memorandum that said that if you give up your nukes, we will be there to support you if anything bad happens. And then something bad happened. Russia invaded. They are the aggressor. And Russia has had imperialistic dreams for a long time, from back when they were the Soviets. And they controlled a lot more of that land. Land that some of it is now NATO land. And they don't like that. They want that land back. And so if they take Ukraine, you think they're going to stop at Ukraine? No. The only reason that they haven't gone further is because now those countries are part of NATO. They went after Moldova. Moldova is half occupied by Russians. Because Moldova was the part that was, you probably don't even know where that is. But anyway, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is they're not going to stop there. And we are allies. That's how the world works. We are allies. World War II would have never been fought and won if it wasn't for alliedship, if it wasn't for countries coming together. So This whole
Russia
notion
was on
of
the
being
same side as
isolated.
Canada at World War II.
So what? So what? That they're not on the same side anymore.
You know why?
Kind of like the
Because
U.S.
Russia will not allow any centralized banks in its country. That's why they're not liked.
That is not true. If they are willing to,
Do you know what the Soviet? Do you know what the? Shut up for a second. Shut up for a second. Do you know what the Soviets did to their own people? Because everybody talks about Mustache Man and everything that happened with Mustache Man, but nobody really talks about Stalin and what he did to his own people and how many millions of people were unalived under his dictatorship. You think that Russia's perfect? Give me a break. Russia
I'm
had
not saying
some.
Russia's perfect. I'm just saying that they don't want any centralized banks in their country. That's all.
It doesn't matter. This is an aggressor coming into a sovereign land and trying to take it by force.
I thought Ukraine used to be part of Russia.
Was part of. Does that mean that they're not their own sovereign land now?
they have been for quite some time. And I'm sad that you don't understand that. And guess what? As somebody who has Ukrainian ancestors, you know what? Ukraine has been trying to be a sovereign nation for a very long time. Russia is only the most recent country to take over that area. Hey, Spirit, for just a quick second, please listen instead of talking. You have no idea the amount of fight that the Ukrainian people have had to try and maintain their sovereignty and their country. As somebody who is proud to come from as a great-grandchild of a Ukrainian whose family luckily enough made it to Canada, I am appalled at the number of people who have no idea the amount of work and hard blood, sweat, tear, labor that Ukrainians have gone through trying to get their sovereignty, and to have other people sit here and try and diminish that and make them feel like evil human beings because they want to govern their own damn selves. Excuse you. Like, I'm sorry. As somebody who is Indigenous, understanding, knowing full well that my ancestors came here and colonized and did all of this stuff, for you to sit here and act as if they don't have a right to have their own freedom? What? Like, I'm sorry, but what? Explain it to me.
Well, when I was watching the Russian news.
Why are you watching Russian news about Ukraine? Excuse you.
Because I wanted to see both sides of the story.
It's not about both sides of the story. Ukraine is its own country, its own reason. Just like Canada is its own. Like, why are you watching U.S. news about Canada?
Because this was last year when the war was heavy, so I watched the Russian news. Vladimir Putin was saying he had to pull out his 19 and 20-year-old soldiers because there was biolabs in Ukraine there was children they found.
That is 110% Russian propaganda that's been debunked. Do you know what the Russian state media is all about? It's a giant propaganda station. You don't listen. You know what, Spirit? You don't listen. You do not listen. All you like to do is talk. That's how talking happens sometimes, because you're saying the same thing over and over again, and I'm just trying to cut in there when you say something ridiculous like the biolabs in Ukraine, because that happened at the beginning of the war. That was the first piece of propaganda that the Russians really were pushing onto North Americans. And by the way, any Russian state media that you can watch on Canadian or American parts of the internet, it's media that they pick that you can watch, because they are very, very secretive with whatever goes on in their country. They don't have real free press. Journalists have been unalived by their government for trying to talk about what's really happening. Protesters that wanted to protest the war, that said, we're not okay with you going into a sovereign land and trying to just take it by force. They got thrown into prisons. And you're going to take anything that is coming out of that state media as fact or truth? Why? The only reason you would do that is because you don't understand the history of that region. You do not understand the geopolitical tensions of that region. You don't understand any of that history. Otherwise, you wouldn't be taking anything that you hear on Russian state media as factual.
Okay, well, I also heard that the Khazarian mafia is the Ukrainian government.
No.
You're
I'm
just,
not-
oh, this is
No,
like,
I'm putting this out there so people
propaganda.
can research it and prove me wrong. That's all.
You are literally
I'm
just
curious,
spreading
I'm
propaganda.
curious.
Just
You're
That's what I heard.
spreading
I heard
propaganda.
You're
Did,
spreading
hang on.
propaganda.
Did you not
and you
listen
don't even
to
know the
a
history.
word that was said?
Sorry.
No, he didn't.
No, like you didn't hear a word we said. I have sat here learning about so many things about Canadian history, including what my ancestors may or may not have participated in this country, as terrible and awful and as tragic as there is in Canadian history for what we've done to the Indigenous people and so many other while being here. Do you not understand it has been the same in Ukraine for the Ukrainian people? Like, Russia is just the most recent occupant, not even the closest. Romania has been there. There have been so many other. Austria has been there. One of my ancestors actually has an Austrian birth certificate because at the time they were born, Austria was occupying Ukraine. So just so you know, this is not exclusive to anywhere. You are literally spreading propaganda for an occupying country of someone who is sovereign. And therefore, I can only assume that you think it's okay for, I don't know, the orange potato down south to show up here and decide he wants all of our stuff. It is not okay. What you are spreading is not okay. If you are going to...
I'm not spreading it. I just saying what I heard. I said.
Well, then start reading.
Yes, but it is so. You have a responsibility. Hold on. You have a responsibility as an adult to make sure that the information that you are saying out loud is factual and it's correct. And you do that by proper research. So just because something comes up on your Twitter feed or your Facebook account or something doesn't mean that it's true. You need to research that and figure out, is it true? Is it not? Because if you say something out loud that is not true, then you are therefore spreading a lie. And lies hurt people. Lies end up having people unalived. So much of the horrible things that have happened in the world have been due to propaganda. The entire rise of one of the most evil tyrants that everybody knows about, Mustache Man, back in Germany, that came from propaganda. It came from people believing a reality that was not true. And right now, we are repeating that history due to the fact that people will just take a piece of information they read somewhere and then regurgitate it to a bunch of other people without ever doing any fact checking. And that is the difference between then and now. Back then, it didn't get out. It didn't spread as much because they didn't have social media. They didn't have these propaganda machines that we're holding on to in our hands right now. But what they also didn't have back then was the ability to do your research with your fingertips really fast.
I want to explain how I got this. Okay. There was a lot of Ukrainians that come to Saskatchewan from the border, and I asked them about the Khazarian Mafia, and they got upset with me. They said, we don't speak of them, and they confirmed. If you know anyone that's Ukrainian that came over, ask them. They confirmed that Khazarian Mafia.
I'm from that part of the world. I'm a Romanian that grew up in Bukovina, which is the border that we share with Ukrainians, and we cross that border back and forth all the time. So those are my people, and that's my history.
That's my people.
Yeah.
I thought it was a funny thing. Like, yeah,
that's who you're supporting. If you support Ukraine, that's truly who you're supporting.
You need to understand.
People, humans.
Hold on. I want Spirit to understand this. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe has been prey to Russian propaganda for a very, very, very long time. So I hear this type of narrative all the time. Well, I have a friend from Ukraine that said this and that, or I have a friend from Romania that said this and that. There's a lot of people from Ukraine and a lot of people from Romania and a lot of people from Poland and a lot of people from Bulgaria that believe propaganda because it is still being pushed out to them as much as it's being pushed out to us. So you're going to have people that believe lies and untruths, and the way that propaganda works is they'll usually take one tiny little piece of truth and then they're going to coat it with a bunch of lies. So there might be some little hint of truth in there, But the way that they're presenting it and everything that they wrap around it is a lie to push a narrative. And it's been that way for a long time, since the dawn of time, really. People have been using propaganda, but now it's just extremely effective because of these freaking smartphones.
We've made it more efficient. We've optimized it. We found by researching.
Yeah,
find
now
the
it's
pain
being fed
points.
by algorithms directly. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
They do researches. I could even break it down on how they got into the past couple of years in regards to what they did, the spaghetti test, to toss against the wall as to what will trigger you the most. Once we find what triggers you the most, we can wrap a story around it, and then you're good to go. This is a science in regards to how to generate propaganda to rage bait you, to get you all frothed up and with rage, and then just weaponize you and get you to do what they need you to do. And usually it's to be in fear that the only people that's going to be able to help you is usually, in this case, the conservative governments, because they're the ones that are using this particular strategy.
Why you guys got to put the conservative government into this? Hey, Spirit.
Because they're right now using this rage bait.
Emotion fear. You know
Sorry?
that when you're born as a baby, you're born without the emotion fear. You learn it.
Give you exactly
That's
would
cool,
never support the conservative
but
government in Canada.
makes no sense. No, hang on a second. That's cool what you said, but it makes absolutely no sense to what exactly I said. Because what I said was, there's technology right now, and there is science right now in regards to how to weaponize propaganda. And I brought up the conservative government because they've been using it, and not just the conservative government as in Canada. I'm talking about conservative governments around the world. So Republicans in the States, and then I'm sure Frontline can probably list me a bunch of conservative parties when it comes to Eastern Europe, as well as many other places. Point being, all these conservative governments, a lot of them with ties to the IDU, have been using propaganda, using spaghetti tests, as I said, to find out what pisses you off the most, and then using that to wrap their stories to get you afraid, so that they're going to be able to come in and swoop in with whatever fear that they've created that they are promising to fix. This is a science. What you're afraid of, they plant in your head, whether it's real or not, and they've promised to fix it, because when they make it up, they can easily fix it.
So
now go ahead.
Spirit, I wanted to touch on one thing that you said. You said that you made a statement earlier about Ukraine being part of Russia. So Ukraine has never been part of Russia. Ukraine was part of the USSR, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics. So Ukraine was always its own republic, its own existing country of sorts. They were just part of a group of others. Russia was its own, Poland was its own, and all these others. So when you hear, or when you say the message, well, they were part of Russia, that is Russian propaganda at its finest. That is the narrative that you're getting fed from Russian propaganda. Oh, they were already part of us. No, they were never part of Russia.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me know that. But half of that country does speak Russian, though, eh?
So what?
Well,
Point about that. Like, there's a bunch of people in Canada who speak French. What is your point?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. Like, there's a
point
point.
is the roots of Ukraine still came from Russia. That was my point.
That's not entirely true. No. There's a lot of different countries who've occupied Ukraine over history, from Moldova to Austria, Hungarian Empire, mostly Austria, to so many other countries. You need to look at your history books because you have no idea what you're talking about. Spirit. Oh, there, my son even is saying stuff. Like, Poland did, absolutely. My son is right. Poland had occupied Ukraine, what is considered Ukraine now, for a certain period of time. You do not know the history of what you were talking about. And it would be so much easier to speak with you if you did, because you know what? You wouldn't sound so absolutely ignorant at this topic. And I really want you to learn.
I learned the history when I watched that interview there with Vladimir Putin and
listen to Vladimir Putin give you a history lesson for real? Are you serious? Is this a joke?
He was talking to what's that reporter there?
But Spirit, I just gave you.
I think that reporter he used to be at Fox and he got fired.
Well,
that reporter, you
Spirit,
guys know who he is.
Spirit, I just gave you facts about history. About
But that was facts, though. That was facts.
You gave me your
Sorry, what?
garbage.
No,
the facts
it's world fact that the USSR stands for Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, meaning their own countries. Right, they're a group of countries that
Yeah, that's the one. Karl Tuckerson and Vladimir Putin. That's the history of Ukraine. Watch it. That's the true history.
That's all.
That is not the true history of Ukraine. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm gonna hold on. I can't do this anymore.
Thank you.
He just said that we need to learn from Putin and Tucker Carlson, and he doesn't understand what's wrong with that statement. So unfortunately, I can't do this anymore. You're just going to keep spouting off propaganda, and it looks like you're a pretty lost cause. Oh, I wanted to say something else, but anyway, I hope that you get your issue with the clean drinking water. I hope that you get help with that, and I really do suggest, if you're still listening or whatever, I do suggest that you come onto the Monday night show and talk to Treaty Birder and get some help, because we do want to help you, but the propaganda just went too far, and it was very obvious that you were not listening to any of us. You were waiting for us to be done talking in order for you to, again, just spout off more in propaganda and just lies, and it made me honestly really sad, guys, because like I don't even think, like, he wasn't doing it with a bad intention. I really don't think he had a bad intention. I think that unfortunately, like, this is just where we are with what social media was able to do to people over the years. And it worries me, and it makes me really sad, and it makes me feel like this is going to be the demise of our entire society, because people will just believe anything they read. Yeah, it's
scary. It is a scary situation. How much of this propaganda and misinformation is out there? It's terrifying.
Yep. I feel like this is it. Like, we're going to keep fighting. Obviously, we're never going to give up. We're strong. We're always going to keep fighting until the end. But, you know, sometimes I do feel like if something was going to be pinpointed as like the reason that we lost our way and stopped evolving and just completely started fighting with each other 24/7 and ended up, you know, ruining it for the future, I think it's the propaganda that did it. Because even with climate change, one of the biggest things that we have to face in the world right now in order for our species to continue their survival on this planet is being weaponized, and there's massive amounts of propaganda that it's not real and it's not happening. So, like, I feel like I'm in that movie, Don't Look Up, you know? And there's a giant meteor coming down, and all of us that are in this chat right now are, like, jumping and trying to tell everyone, like, hey, we're gonna be unalive by this meteor soon. And everybody's like, don't believe it. Don't look up. Just don't believe it.
That's an actual movie, you know? That's an actual
that's what
movie.
I mean.
Look up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm in that movie all the time.
Yeah. You and me both. We're like yelling, look, it's right there. Oh no. It's like, yeah.
Thank you for putting up with my meltdown, everybody. I appreciate you guys, but like, there's only so much I can handle, and when it comes to like,
I think you were very poised for the condition and the circumstance. To be honest, there was times where I wanted to lose my SHIT, and I kept it quiet because I do believe he doesn't mean ill intent. He just genuinely believes all of the garbage he's been fed.
Yeah.
Or he's a really good player. Or he's a very, very good troll. I don't know.
No, I genuinely feel like you know what? I've been talking to a lot of conservatives. I mean, he wasn't even truly conservative. He thinks that they're all evil and they're all bad. And so that's why I really don't think that he was just trolling us. I think that he genuinely just thought these things. I mean, I see it on other people's lives. I see it in my own lives. I talk to them in my comment section. I talk to them in my DMs. Sometimes we have good conversations. Sometimes we're able to at least be nice to each other, you know, completely disagree, but at least be nice to each other. And so I get a good, like, I know when somebody's trolling me and when somebody just is unfortunately super misinformed and ill-informed. You know, there was a guy on JB's live last night too that was just, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. He was an older gentleman, a much older gentleman, who really believed that, like, the immigrants were the biggest issue in Canada. And it was so sad to see that he was not even aware of how incredibly racist he was. I mean, he just kept saying one racist thing after the other, and didn't realize he was doing it. And we could tell that he didn't mean it. Like, it was the weirdest psychological thing. Like, everybody in the comments too, like, we were all just so sad because he was hurting, and you could tell that this man was, like, really hurting in himself and with his life, and yet he had chosen to put all that pain onto the blame of immigrants, and not even realizing that he himself was probably taught very racist things from a young age. It was hard to watch. It was honestly hard to watch because at one point you just wanted to, like, go out and give him a hug because he was so sad. But then on the other point, you wanted to scream at him because he never learned about social justice in the world. So it was... Yeah. It's hard. And this propaganda makes it so much harder. Like, it's we really are fighting the biggest psychological war of our lifetimes. Sorry, Vic, go for it.
Yeah, it doesn't help that we've got a leader down south who's just an absolute machine at putting that propaganda out. Right? He loves all the misinformation. He loves doing that because it suits his needs. Right? So he's got the biggest megaphone also, right? So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I gotta end the live because it's been 3 hours already, and we have 10 more minutes to go. So I want to give everybody a chance on the panel to kind of say their piece, and then I'll say peace. So let's start with Vic, and then Indigenous Mama, Angela, Joe, and Tiffany.
Well, thank you for bringing me up. I appreciate that. I just was trying to provide some facts there, but it's obvious that the misinformation poison, well, I call it poison. The misinformation poison is just so penetrating and gets into people's whole belief. Yeah, I'm with you. It's scary. It's not that we're not going to stop trying to educate people, but it is scary to the direction of it. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me jump on, and I just
thank you for coming on.
I'm just, like, very disappointed in his lack of curiosity and wanting to find out more than just one point of view, which he seems to be doing. Well, my wife told me this. Well, I'm watching this. And it's like, well, get somebody else's point of view. I had a whole discussion with my nephew, who is Indigenous and who is a Trump supporter. And we agreed to disagree. It made my dad uncomfortable. But in the end, what I got from him was he's looking for a traditional home life, something he didn't have growing up because of all the trauma that we've been through. So that gave me some insight into my nephew. With this guy, I have nothing. I don't know where he is. He's very lost. But thank you for letting me on.
Thank you. Angela.
Well, thank you for having me up. And this is something that we really need to be aware of, because this is a reality of what's going to be happening in this election. We're going to have people out there who honestly believe everything that Pierre says. And that puts Canadians at risk. And we need to share positive information, because this is what's going to happen. They believe what he's saying. And that's a scary thing. And the reality is, going forth now, there's going to be an early election. We know there is. And I predict it's going to happen before March 24th. Because that's when it's supposed to go back into Parliament. So this is going to be 6 weeks, or however long they determine the election is going to be. And we're going to have to get the message out the best way we can. Spread it, please. Because this is going to be an election that's going to affect not just Canada, but remember, we're also the U.S. as well. So I just want to say, you know what? We got to wake up right now.
Big time. Big time. Thank you, Angela. Joe. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Joe, you're muted.
And that makes me feel like it. And my problem is I got 2 mute buttons, so sometimes I start talking for a while and don't realize and nobody can hear me. It's probably a better thing for everybody else involved, so you're welcome. But usually I prepare something in regards to what we discuss. Unfortunately, I got a little distracted by something that somebody sent me, and it's kind of distracted me quite a bit, because I feel, on top of all the horrible things we've seen, this is another new level of horrible that we haven't seen, but I feel this is a larger one. I'm planning on doing a video about this probably shortly after.
Do you mind sharing what it is real quick?
I am absolutely going to share real quick. So, based on the changes in the executive orders and everything that's going on now, federal contracts will no longer explicitly ban segregated facilities. Segregation is no longer banned from federal contracts. Now, it does not mean it's not still illegal on federal laws and state laws, but it's no longer banned in the contracts, as it's been explicitly banned in the contracts for decades. And this is more and less of an actual, we're changing it, as much as it's a signal now. We're seeing all these little steps in fast speed. Again, we're what, month 3?
Month 2, really.
January. Yeah, it's not even a full 3 months.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at, and segregation is now being permitted back in the contracts, which means if the states want to consider it, and if the federal government wants to change it, this is now possible. We've already got DEI out. Segregation is now a possibility. So this is still my message in regards to Base It Tonight. When you're thinking about parties and you're thinking about what could be fight, absolutely you need to think about, if the Americans have their ability, this is what they're offering at the table. Their better healthcare is you're paying out of pocket. Their better justice is segregation's coming back in. Their better equality for women is no rights for women. Every day we're seeing a new reason why. It is a terrible, horrifying thought.
And
yet, less happy.
And yet people are still saying that we need a guy like Trump up here in Canada. Ew.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes, but which guys do they look like me? That's my question. Are they guys that look like me? Sorry, Tiffany.
Yeah, you gotta follow that one, Tiff.
That's okay. I saw what Joe just shared earlier, I think this afternoon, so
oh, yes.
I hadn't got a chance to share it with you yet. I don't know how you follow that up with, other than I'm just at this moment waiting for the paperwork to say that women are no longer allowed to go to school or work, et cetera, et cetera. I'm scared that so many people do not understand just basic history. And more importantly, if you show them evidence of it, they're not willing to believe you. And that's the part that scares me more. Because it used to be, at least if you were wrong, somebody would show you the supporting facts, and at least you would be like, oh, got that wrong. But, you know, that's not even the case. Although I'm really excited that me and Frontline Feminist obviously have some, like, you know, ancestry somewhere probably down the, the pipeline together. But it...
Oh, guaranteed.
100%. But it, like, this is just... I think the more I look at this, the more I realize I have to start doing a lot of, like, history lessons, lessons on government work, history... Because I'm really tired of people sitting here vilifying Ukraine based on Russian propaganda. Because I'm like, I'm just talking about, like, Frontline, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I said Russia's just the most current continent.
Yeah.
My great-grandparents came from, we could go into so many different places, from Moldova to Austria to Poland to, like, so many places. And I'm like, all they want is the ability to feel safe and govern themselves. And I do not think that is an outlandish request. And especially given that it's Canadians spouting this. Dude, we are literally having our sovereignty threatened, and you're sitting here saying it's okay for somebody else to do it to another country? Can you say hypocritical much? Like, I don't understand. Like,
I mean, it's this is what I mean though. The propaganda just makes it so that they just can't, like, think rationally enough to understand that, you know, that's the thing though. Most people don't know what's going on outside of their country, and that's why we have so many of the problems that we do, because people don't understand global politics. And to understand your own politics, you have to understand global politics as well, because they all play a part.
And you can't listen to Tucker Carlson. For history lessons, or political lessons, or really anything.
I mean, that was wild. That was wild. Yeah, I'm sorry, but Putin and Tucker Carlson's interview on the history of Ukraine, you know, is going to be a joke.
Oh my God! As much as I was angry and ready to spit fire, part of me was also dying, unaliving, laughing on the inside, like, so much so. Like, I'm still, like, I have tears because I'm laughing so hard, because it's so absurd. How can you believe another invading country's historical perspective on the history of that country? It's like, I'm like,
well, like, look at what the United States is trying to do right now, trying to come up with lies that are saying that we're not actually a country and we're part of their corporation. We're just a corporation that they own, like crazy shit like that. Like, why? It's absolutely nuts. They're doing to us exactly what Russia did to Ukraine before invading.
Exactly.
Making up stories and lies, destabilizing their economy, supporting puppet governments.
And that's the thing. I was so shocked that I'm like, how do you not see the similarities? Like, literally, if I wrote this on a checklist side by side.
Tiffany, how many people do you actually think that know what actually happened in Ukraine? Like, most people, that their knowledge is war in Ukraine. We give them money. I don't want to give them money. Like, that's literally the extent of most people's education when it comes to the war in Ukraine. Some people know a little bit more. They know Russia invaded, Russia bad. But, like, most people don't know the history of Ukraine. Why would they? Unless you're from that part of the world, right? Like we are. We have a reason to know it. I also like to read history, but let's be brutally honest, most people don't. Most people should, but we really don't place a high emphasis in school about why it's important to understand world history. We could get into that on a different day, but that's the problem, right? Is that, like, they don't know the history. Most people, like, look at all of this all Americans now are coming up into our comment section and say, you guys would all be speaking German without us. Because they don't actually know the details of what happened in World War II.
They don't even know we saved them in Omaha.
They just know that, like, we came in at the end, we were the best. Everybody would have been like, they don't even realize that, like, the Soviets are actually the ones that did the most work in that battle.
Yeah.
Facts, actually.
Yeah, the Americans came in at the end, but had the Americans not showed up, still would have worked. It still would have won. It might have taken a little bit longer, but the Allies were still in a winning position when the Americans showed up.
And Canada would not have given up. The fact that 10% of our population volunteered, wasn't conscripted, showed up anyways. We weren't letting it go. We couldn't have bothered sending all of our... We were
there 2 years. We were there 2 years before they were. And the only reason they got involved is because it personally affected them with Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. That's why they got involved. But let's be brutally honest here. They wouldn't have otherwise. And then when we talk about this too, I just want to, just in case there's some, conservatives in the comments, they're going to be like, well, if the Soviets did so much fighting, then aren't the Soviets the good guys? Not really. The only reason they did so much fighting is because Mustache Man invaded them.
And Stalin,
and they were like
terrible.
And they were like, you think you can take us? No, we'll show you. But that's why they weren't fighting it because they were fighting against the morality of Mustache Man. Like, they weren't fighting it because they were like, oh, this guy's done bad things. Because that's another piece of propaganda that likes to get pushed out a lot about World War II. People didn't even really know what happened in Germany, by the way, until after the Nuremberg trials, okay? So, just FYI, the Soviets weren't fighting Mustache Man because Mustache Man bad. They were fighting Mustache Man because Mustache Man was trying to take over their land.
He reneged on the agreement that he made with Stalin, actually, in Mustache Man. They had an agreement. Stalin and the Mustache Man were actually in agreement early on in everything. And then, as most dictators do, they decide they don't need friends and they can go it alone. Anybody in the comments who is a Republican, you know what? This is for you for a history lesson. And it always happens. This is not just exclusive to the Austrian painter. This is exclusive to Napoleon and so many others. They think they can go it alone, and guess what? The minute they start thinking they don't need friends, it doesn't end well.
There's narcissism in all these guys.
Yeah, it was because people forget that Stalin and the Austrian painter actually were had contracts and all sorts of stuff agreed upon prior to their invasion of Russia.
Yeah, they were buddies. They were getting along just fine.
Yeah.
Same with him and Mussolini, right? He partnered up with Mussolini in the beginning too. They used to ride around together and learn from each other.
They thought they were cool. It's kind of, just like Putin and Trump.
Anyway, we should do a history live. We'll do a history live because right now we're going off. And I did say that I was going to end the live.
Yeah.
And I do have to because I'm getting hungry.
I love calling him the Austrian painter because it's really an extra insult.
It is, but a lot of people I find still don't know what that is. Because I've actually done this a lot with conservatives in lives. I go, do you know where Mustache Man came from? Like, where was he born? And most of them are like, well, duh, Germany. So I always have a good time with that question because it's very rare that somebody gets it right. Anyway, I am done. I just want to thank everybody for being here. I know that today was a little bit of an unorthodox Beaver Politics Live. We did talk about some of the stuff going on, but things have been feeling so heavy lately. And when I saw Tiffany up in the comments going, ooh, I learned a bunch of stuff from American Lives, I was like, let's just do a talk show. So it turned into this talk show, and I loved it. It was great. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all the gifts. Please check out our other shows. We've got a lot of other shows during the week. Monday nights, we have Indigenous Matters. So again, for anybody who is Indigenous or wants to learn more or wants to have some really good conversation with some amazing panelists, please show up on Monday night. Tuesday, we have News Hour with me, where we basically just kind of shoot the shit about what's going on, and I bring up some people and we just have discussions around what is happening in the world right now. Wednesday nights we have the Progressive Moose. Thursday nights we have Truth Through Discourse, where it's just one big happy panel. It's basically everybody in the community just comes together and we try to stay on topic and discuss one or two topics. Things end up getting a little crazy, but we're trying to get better at that. And then Friday night we have our debate nights. I will be here this Friday. It's a work in progress. We're trying to figure out exactly who's going to be there on each Friday. We might end up being switching all the beavers out so that you'll get a different beaver for each debate live. We'll find out. But yeah, check us out. Saturdays is Radicalized. Sundays is This Happy Life with Happy. But there's a bunch of really good shows. There's also some shows during the day as well, midday if you're home. So just check us out on our profile, and there should be some pinned videos at the top that will take you through each show and what it is. So thanks again for being here. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being my support group as we talked to that one person tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was something special. And Joe, I'm sorry if I interrupted you at all. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're absolutely wonderful. Not to worry.
Night, y'all.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Love you all.
I'm gonna go get some chow mein.
Ooh, jealous a little bit.
The pizzas are safe. I repeat.
You should be. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Much love.
You guys, bye.